But we'll make sure that you're up to date with all the coverage regardless. JD Devil Noob going purple in the immediate. Of course, still very early in the day here in Q2. But the weather looking far more pleasant for the drivers to be working with. And it doesn't seem that we're going to be experiencing any rain at all here in Q2 here, Dan.
I beg your pardon, sorry, I missed that, George.
Well, it doesn't look like we're going to have any rain at all through the course of Q2 here this time.
Well, we would certainly hope not, with it being so sunny and bright at this particular point in the session. And looking at the weather forecast, yes, you're right. So, yeah, hopefully it stays this way, because honestly, I'm not really I'm not really in the mood, shall we say, for a bit of rain anymore. I want to now see what these drivers are capable of doing with the dry track, with the slick rubber, with everything else underneath them. And so, yeah, let's see what sort of times they can pump out, especially as the track ramps up, which it will quickly around here, because of course the lap is so short, so you can get so many of them in. To the top of the timesheets goes El Rey Guri there, as we have a 104.2 for the meantime, 104.0 for M Sky Z, as they now go to the top of the timesheets. And so, as it is at this point in time then, it's a good opening salvo from some of these drivers, though I suspect there might be some used tyres in the mix here.
Yeah, M Sky Z going to the top with a very decent 104.043. It's incredible to think now that we're already seeing these times. Remember, we saw the 103s creep in towards the end of the opening session of qualifying. We're now seeing them again. GB68 getting a very useful tow here too. And obviously the car just trying to move out the way in order to, A, not obviously getting in his way, but at the same time trying to avoid sharing that slipstream, as we now take a picture-in-picture view here of GB now, so dialed in and focused here at this stage. 16.2 in Sector 1 as he looks to bring Sector 2 to a close, crosses the line to head into Sector 3, and it's 28.7 here at this point. I think just ran a little close to the curb, but he's okay. He hasn't invalidated it as he heads through Jochen Rindt. This could be a very decent lap, should we say, a banker, just to get himself underway here in this session of qualifying. Comes across the line and goes third fastest. A brilliant lap indeed, a 104.377 and just over 3/4 of a tenth just behind M Sky Z.
I tell you what, based on what we were saying earlier on before the stream started, the reason why he didn't get provisional pole on that run there was because we weren't singing Africa by Toto whilst we were doing that lap. So there we go. We've got to remember to do that the next time that we see GB on our screens. But Vince then is on a lap at the moment then. He's looking relatively solid so far, just from this onboard camera. It's all looking very, very pleasant so far on board that Red Bull. And as they go down into the next few corners then through 6, 7, 8, and now 8 coming up here through that right-handed kink. There's some of these corners that aren't really too much of a corner in a Formula 1 car, but they can sometimes end up offering you a little bit of trickery. And as it is, there must have been some trickery somewhere, because into the pits goes that guy Vince.
Yeah, invalidating his run, and decides now to come into the pits to reassess here at this stage as we now revisit Zafso. There in 8th spot as well, still yet to field his first time. A 16.2 though in Sector 1 is certainly promising. The Racing Chai in P7 has just gone purple with a 16.012 here at this stage. And of course now, after alluding to the points buffer that he would have gained off the back of the sprint race, he's in a very good place in order to try and challenge. Obviously you'll be very wary that M Sky Z is the fastest driver here in this session so far. Zafso though will be the first to come up towards the line between he and Racing. As he heads up towards the line, it will be 7th fastest to 104.949. Just lost a little bit of key time as now Racing goes purple in the second sector again. This is looking like a very strong lap as well. He's banking off the back of this, and certainly Racing heading through towards the Jochen Rindt curve. This time looking to displace M Sky Z from the top of the order. The McLaren v the Mercedes. It certainly will be the case that Mercedes will go fastest with a blistering 103 yet again. It's a 103.708, a brilliant time, and he's over 3 1/4 tenths faster this time than M Sky Z.
Certainly are. Yep, very, very good lap time. And that's nearly, yeah, as you say, 3/10 faster, or just over 3/10 faster than what their championship rival have been able to do. And then, of course, you look to the rest, and that's a half a second quicker than El Rey. It's 6/10 ahead of GB. It's a very, very good lap time. I'm sure there will be some element of track evolution that's played a part in that, but as we've just seen from their teammate going across the line, clearly there is an awful lot of that that's just to do with the driver themselves. Very, very good lap from Racing Chai there.
Absolutely right. There is Michi Hoyer currently 6th fastest as well, looking to try and improve as well, 16.306 at this point in Sector 1. Further up, Rasin Chai setting an 18.3, of course, on his cooldown run at this point. And Infratic further down, once again, leaving everything to the very last minute. 7 minutes and 45 to go here at this stage. And still with very much 9 members of, well, should we say 6 members of the grid that have yet to register, should we say, representative lap times. Of course, the bottom 5 confirmed not to have set representative lap times here at this stage. Tiamat Marduk, 10th fastest. He's out on a lap right now. We have, of course, got Infratic, who has set a 16.2 in Sector 1. So it's a very key time now for all those in the bottom 5, because this could be the difference between safety and relegation out of qualifying. There's Infratic now coming through the Rauschenwerth curves. He needs to dial this one in, Danfield.
He certainly does, absolutely. And we've got, them just coming through these next few corners now. Then this, hopefully, is going to be a better attempt than their sort of one-lap glory run in Q1. And then they can start to get themselves into a bit of a rhythm. The problem they've got, of course, by waiting until the end of Q1, again, it's a bit like what we were saying earlier on, as he goes P6, not a bad time at all. 104.4 is quicker than what they managed in Q1 as well. But, you know, again, it's all about the sort of the trade-offs, really, and what makes you faster in one area makes you less fast in another area. You know, by staying out as long as you can and getting as many laps in as the majority of the field did, then that means you're just getting experience of the track. You're getting experience running. But then, of course, by not doing that, by doing what Fabio did, it means you get a bit less running on a dry track, which they've not had all weekend long up to this point. And so there's going to be a little bit less familiarity there, as well as then the fact that, the benefit by doing that is then they've saved more tyres. So, again, trade-offs. Yeah,
absolutely right. We just want to say Tiamat Marduk going 5th fastest ahead of his teammate Infratic, who's down in 7th now. Curbs registering a 16.1 in the first sector. Reasonably good, decent Sector 2 time as well. It's just crossed the line and set a 104.192. That is an absolutely fantastic time for Curbs, who certainly seems dialed in here at Red Bull Ring, Dan.
Certainly do, absolutely, and it's looking like a quick race car underneath them at this stage. You know, let's hope for a curb naissance. It's that's stretching it, really, isn't it? But yeah, that's it's looking good for them so far. Hopefully, they can continue that form throughout the rest of qualifying, and then, of course, into the race as well. Again, maybe they've just taken it personally, what I was saying before about how, I think they can get into Q3, but maybe not towards the top end of the field. Well, go ahead and prove me wrong, Curbs.
Yeah, absolutely right. As we now see, into the pits comes Chesnoid Gaming. Curbs now in 3rd place, not on a representative lap here at this stage, but we've got F1 Alex, who is now the sole driver who has now come out on an outlap and is now looking to get set for a run. But he runs the risk here, Dan, of effectively, should we say, running out of sync with the rest of the cars. There's potential for hold-ups here.
Yeah, absolutely. Potential for hold-ups, also potential for just general problems as well. You know, things like getting out of sync now means that this will be your last run. And, you're not going to have enough time, even on a short circuit like Austria, you're not going to have enough to be able to get out there, to be able to go ahead and get another lap in. This is going to be do or die now. And you're going to have to just deal with the consequences, essentially. It also means that if this is your last lap now, you're not going to get the best of the track in its evolved condition come the end of the session, when, of course, others are going to be able to get their times in. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, but we'll have to wait and see how it all shapes out for them. I mean, right now, they've got the track completely to themselves, to Safso. So hopefully, as far as they're concerned, they're going to be able to pop in a time that is much quicker than what they've been able to manage there. 104.9. That's not where I would expect Safso to be. I love him to bits, but, biased to one side. As you've mentioned before now, of course, he is the Series 1 champion. He is one of those protagonists in the fight for the Constructors as well. Aston have led the Constructors already once this season. So it's, not beyond the realms of possibility to see them into the top end of the field here. And I certainly would expect them to be there.
Yeah, and he's in the top 10 in terms of the current championship fray, as we now get team radio from Curb saying what a lap sorted. Truly was 104.192, just on the precipice of getting into those 103s, which is where Rasin Chai currently operates right now. Zafso about to cross the line on his outlap to conclude that and begin his fast lap. F1 Alex still out on his run at this stage as well. Now he's got Michi Hoyer in front of him here, and that could prove to be a little tricky. Of course, there is a pretty decent gap between the Mercedes and the Alfa Romeo. but obviously doesn't want to be left in trouble here with other drivers now occupying the track. Oh, he spins. Goodness me, a very key moment in the lap, coming into the final moments here as well with 2 minutes and 50 to go. And F1 Alex spinning, coming out of turns 9 into turns 10.
2 minutes and 50 seconds, that's marginal. I think they might struggle to get themselves back out and onto another lap here. It's certainly what they're going to be what they're going to be aiming to do. But I don't think it's going to necessarily come together for them. Safso, meanwhile, here we can see on 2 personal bests so far. They may well have gotten a tow from GB at some stage as well. It's got them within just about a tenth or so of the overall fastest in the first sector, coming around that final turn now then. Let's wait and see what Safso is able to do, the rock star of the Creator Series, and up to P6. That's much more what we'd expect from Safso there, a 104.4 as well. So this now means, of course, that having been given a tow by GB, it means now that Safso can do the exact same thing for their teammate. They can now wait, hold up, and then go for the attempt at towing along GB in just a few moments' time. Let's wait and see what happens here as GB goes into turn 1, then aggressive on that apex curve, I think it's fair to say. Now then, this is their teammate just in front of them here. They're going to stay on the racing line, or certainly stay to the right-hand side at least. That then allows GB to go racing up towards the front here. They come across the sector split for sector 1, and it's close, but no cigar quite there for that first sector overall session best. They are just a few hundredths shy of it. They are right in the ballpark there, but it's not quite the quickest overall. That still belongs to Rasen Chai, who has retired some time ago. Through the second sector they're going now, then there's a bit of traffic in front of them, but they're not really getting in any way that is going to impact their time here. So as they go through here, down the hill now towards that second sector split time, let's see what they're able to do. It's another personal best. It's about 3/10 shy of the overall best in the session so far, but 3/10 shy would still put them somewhere in the region of around about second or third fastest at this point. So into the final sector now then, through the penultimate turn, into that final corner now then, up towards the line. What is it going to be for GB68? Well, across the line they go, and it is P3 in the end then for them so far. Provisional P3, of course. There are still drivers out there on outlaps or getting on to their time laps, like JD Devil Noob in front of us here.
Yeah, he's on a 16-1 in Sector 1 at this point now, and looking to find a little extra in order to perhaps marshal a charge. He's not alone, though, because there is Perya, who's further back. Of course, another one who lost out in the sprint race after coming together with his teammate MSkyZ, who currently operates in P2 and is on another outlap as we speak. Coming up towards the line, JD Devil Noob looking for safety. Finds safety as well, goes 8th fastest, but we've still got other cars to keep an eye on as here comes the McLaren of Perya up towards the line this time. Is it enough for safety? It certainly is. 7th fastest and relegates JD Devil Noob into 9th place. Safso in 8th, Tiamat Marduk on the bubble, potentially in line for elimination, but has done a 16.134, which is very much in line, but faster than Michi Hoyer in P4 right now.
Absolutely, yeah. This is looking like an exciting end to this Q2 session here. We've got MSkyZ, Michi Hoyer, and El Rey all done. They're in the pits at the moment, so they are not going to be able to get a lap done at this stage. There are others out there who might, in theory, be able to get a lap done, but it's not going to be any quicker because they've just set a lap. And then you've got those like Ben Daly on the screen at the moment, having set a personal best in both of the first 2 sectors, and actually not far away at all from the overall session best. We're looking about 2/10 shy at this stage. I would say then that this is going to be a P2 time from Ben Daly. Let's wait and see. Up to line he goes, and it is a P2 time there.
Yeah, I have to say that first sector was brilliant. So was the second sector, right on the precipice of perhaps even beating Rasen Chai. Mere hundredths. F1 Alex, after the difficulties earlier on, we saw the spin heading through the final bend, and he will be out of qualifying. JD Devil Noob as well, not on a fast run. So that looks like our eliminees confirmed. Unfortunately for Perya, not enough for an improvement. He's on a slow run himself, a cool down lap, comes into the pits. JD Devil Noob will join him. Both cars getting eliminated. Infratic will not persevere to Q3. F1 Alex out, as is Chesnoid Gaming. But another sensational performance from Rasen Chai here, Dan.
Yeah, brilliant lap from Rasen at this stage. And I think that the thing which surprises me, actually, is 2 of the eliminations that we've got, though. We've got Perya and we've got Infratic out. I would have had them as shoo-ins for getting in. To be honest, I was really worried for the likes of El Rey and Vince and a couple of others who were in the pits on that final run. I thought that the track evolution, the fact that the grid was so tightly packed at that stage, where we had, we had the likes of, everybody in the top 13 on a 104 or better in the case of Rasen Chai. It was close. It was one of these things, and ultimately El Rey was the lowest of those who sat in the pits. and they've made it through. They're in 9th place, so it's very, very good indeed. So to remind you then, those out in that Q2 session are Perya, Devil Noob, Infratic, and then F1 Alex and Chesnoid. Then, in terms of those going through, it has been Rasin Chai at the top of the timesheets, with then Ben Daly, the only other driver to join them in the 103s in that Q2 session. And then it is from third down, MSkyZ, GB68, Mitchy Hoyer, Alex Gillen, that guy Vince, Curbs, Elray Guri, and then, of course, Safso in P10. So both Astons managed to get through, which was something we were a little bit concerned about earlier on as to whether they would or not, George.
Yeah, it's certainly a show of improvement, I would say, off the back of that. And Scott, obviously, coming off the back of yet another domineering performance from Rasin Chai at the head of the field. Again, one of two that managed to break into the 103s. He wasn't alone, though. Tiamat Marduk doing exactly the same, despite the gap being 2.5 tenths. A 103 on anyone's day is brilliant, and especially in Q2, where, of course, we haven't necessarily got to the point where we're at optimal temperatures. We of course have Q3 coming up very shortly. I shudder to think what we're going to see in that session, but what a statement from Rasin Chai. Mercedes looking strong, as do Aston Martin.
Absolutely, yeah. We do love it when you shudder, George.
Yeah, they certainly do. Yeah, but Scott, obviously a phenomenal effort from Mercedes, and I mean, we allude back to the difficulties GB and Safso had, and returning the way they have, full of venom. Q2 went far better. I think Safso would have liked to have done it a little more comfortably. P10 isn't exactly ideal. Obviously, you could do without those nerves, but it's in nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly. One person I want to mention as well is Alex Gillen, because he was just out of the 103s, but he had quite a bad sector 1. He had a red sector 1, so I feel like if he puts that lap together, and I was watching on board, and honestly he was just a bit too relaxed and casual. So once he goes into Q3, really puts his foot down, really, we know the sort of pace he has. I think he could be up there as well as maybe someone to potentially, maybe, take pole. I mean, Rasin has been so fast. We know what we get from Rasin. He's incredible. He's on the controller. I heard him recently saying he might even be going on to a wheel at some point. If that's the case, I just like the world needs to watch out. PSGL, WR, they all need to watch out because Rasin's coming. But yeah, this is going to be a really, really, really tight Q3, and
yeah, phenomenal effort from Rasin. Yeah, I mean, it was a phenomenal effort from Rasin Chai and a statement of intent. I'm sure we'll see more from him as we make our way into Q3. But Dan, now, all the talking gets put aside. Obviously, we're now at the point where it's now the Q3 shootout. The decisive matter that is pole position needs to be determined here in Q3. Let us know in the live chat who you think's going to manage it. Of course, we've got quite a stacked grid here in this final session of qualifying. Rasin Chai, Zafso, Tiamat Marduk, MSkyZ, that guy Vince, GB68, Alex Gillen, Elray Guri, Mitchy Hoyer, and Curbs all lined up to try and hammer out a decent pole time. I tell you what, I'll give Curbs credit here. He's made it to Q3. Who knows? He could grab pole here, Dan.
I tell you what, if Curbs manages to get pole in this one, I shall strip down right here on the stream. You heard it here first. Curbs, please don't get pole. I don't think anyone really wants to see that. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be traumatizing.
There might be some unfortunate timing if it freezes as well.
Well, this is also true. I mean, it's, yeah, imagine that. Just your new wallpaper is just me with my, yeah, anyway. So let's...
Snipping tools at the ready, folks.
Well, exactly. Oh, please don't. No, never, don't get those out. No, that's horrible. Don't put that image in my head, George. Goodness gracious me. Oh, no. Well, let's wait and see then. Curbs currently is fastest. I'm now getting a bit sweaty under the collar. But there's nervousness now creeping in here. But I think, based on what we're seeing on the sector times here, I'm not going to have to worry too much longer. Because, yes, up into the 103.4. Wow, getting out there straight away and not messing about with it. MSkyZ, that's the fastest time we've seen all day.
That is absolutely stunning. I did allude to the fact that as the track certainly ramps up, the temperature now very much at optimal levels. As we can see, Mitchy Hoyer now goes second fastest ahead of his teammate Rasin Chai. Of course, they might choose to use the used tyres in the initial stages of this Q3 session, but it looks like mSkyZ might have come out of the blocks with a fresh set of tyres and has taken himself to the top just to pile the agony on everybody else. That guy Vince goes 5th fastest. We got GB68, who has done a 16.1 in the first sector, or a 16.161 in the first sector, I should say, a 28.872 in sector 2 now, heading up towards the line. Is it enough for a decent time? A 5th place time of a 104, and has just been relegated to 6th as well, because Alex Gillen has gone 4th fastest, just ahead of Curbs as well. I mean, credit to the Williams driver now, 5th on this list of times as we're seeing it. El Rey Guri, though, out on track, and he's just done a 16.2 in sector 1.
Certainly has, absolutely. It's looking good as far as the Spanish driver is concerned on our screens right this second, and as they start heading through these next few corners, then through 7 and 8, these then are corners which you've just got to take full throttle, maximum commitment, get your car through as quickly as you possibly can, and then you come down into these penultimate turns. This is then where you can sometimes get it all wrong, and oh well, he denies us. We got so close to the edge, and then he's denied us any potential climax there.
It's no can do for El Rey Guri, straight into the pits, and he'll reassess. We still have 7 minutes and 10 to go, but never ideal to back out of your opening lap. Alex Gillen on a cool-down run as it stands, with El Rey Guri in 10th spot as things stand. We're very much now in the very early stages of qualifying. We'll be right back with the action, folks, as producer Rob gets on a mission to certainly get that broadcast up to scratch for you guys at this point. He's doing a fabulous job, it has to be said. But watching on, obviously early blood for mSkyZ, takes the top time. Your view, Scott, what do you think of it?
Yeah, it's very close right now. I'm watching Ben. He's just about to start his lap, getting rid of all his fuel. His face is very determined. He is ready for this. I is struggling to see what it is. Like that time, 103.5 was it? That is incredible.
3.4, absolutely outrageous. We haven't seen a single time like that. And to come out of the blocks straight into Q3, Dan Gilligan, that is a statement. Impressive.
Certainly is. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's really interesting, actually, in terms of this, because it's something that we see quite often with mSkyZ, I feel. It's they go out there nice and early in Q3, and then they're able to set a time that is absolutely up there, on the money, every single time. And they ultimately just, they want to have... They want to have, everything that's going on there in terms of the, I don't know what point I'm going with now because I had a talk in my ear. But it's, yeah, fast cars, woo, excitement.
Love that, Dan Gilligan.
Yeah.
Expert, top analysis as always.
Always.
Brilliant. Big thank you to F1 Scott as well, who's done a tremendous job behind the scenes with us too. As we now look ahead, Q3 fully underway, lap. Well, say lap, it's timer left, 5 minutes and 15 to go of the realm. And up the very top, still mSkyZ with his 103.4. Can anyone beat it? He is nearly 7 tenths clear up at the top. That is a huge ask for any driver at this point, Dan.
It certainly is, yeah. Big ask. And as you can see then, we've got our drivers going into the pits then, or already in the pits, and they're just sort of getting themselves ready to go once more. Even around a circuit as short as Austria, you're realistically only going to get 2 runs in Q3. And that's it. At least the benefit they've got now is that everybody in this session is, well, they're severely limited in number, so therefore they're not going to end up having too much in the way of traffic problems, you would imagine. But we will have to wait and see on that. Now, the thing that I find very interesting is you've got the likes of Ben Daly and El Rey Guri currently out there on their timed laps at this late stage in the session. They've got to get themselves round, they've got to get themselves then around an in-lap and into the pits, change their tyres, and then go again. I don't think that either one of them, certainly not El Rey, who's the further back of these two, is going to have the time to do that. I think this is going to be the one and only time that we see. And Ben is certainly making it count, because whilst the first sector is a couple of tenths shy, the middle sector is the fastest middle sector that we have seen all session long. Up towards the line now goes Benjamin Daly. And it is P2, a 103.8, a very, very valiant effort, but not quite enough to be able to get themselves into provisional pole there.
There's a good chance for El Guri, though, who has just gone purple in the middle sector, a 28.4, and goes second fastest with a brilliant time. There's only 68 thousandths off the top. mSkyZ still flexing with that 103.454, but a 103.522 from El Guri is certainly fantastic, and certainly sends that warning shot straight back to mSkyZ, as now it is Alfa Romeo on the front row of the grid, as we're now seeing Racing Chai currently riding on board with him now after that first sector is 16.052, which is right on the precipice of where mSkyZ is. Of course, SkyZ with a 59 in sector 1. That is absolutely outrageous. We haven't seen hardly any 15s in the first sector, but he has managed to bring it to the table so early on into the session. Racing China with a disappointing 28.3 in the middle sector. I say disappointing, it's actually our fastest time in the middle sector, and has now managed to cultivate a potential P1 spot. No way is he going to upset mSkyZ up towards the line. No, he can't. Second fastest, 62 thousandths off the top, and only 6 thousandths faster than El Guri in third place.
Yeah, another fantastic time from Racing, but it looks as though mSkyZ has come back with a vengeance in this qualifying session in anticipation of the Grand Prix here. So, yeah, very, very good time indeed. We've got, currently on outlaps, we've got GB68, who we can see on screen right now. Alex Gillen is also out there on an outlap at the moment, but GB is the one who's going to start the next lap here. And across the line they will come in just a few moments' time to start their lap in the Aston Martin. And so it's a 104.3 as their current time. Now they need to find about a second, really, if they want to steal the pole here. But we'll wait and see. They've got an ever so briefest of toes there off the back of Curbs' Williams, as we now see them running up towards the hill then. Onto the brakes just around that 100-meter board or so, and then they go piling into there. Now they're going to get a second toe, this time from their teammate Safso, who's got that flashing red light on the back of their Aston, so they've therefore got themselves no ERS deployment, which is going to naturally help in terms of allowing GB to get close and pass. As well as that, we also saw their Safso with their own rear wing open, so it's all the extra top speed being given to GB68 there. Let's see what they're able to do on this run down through the second sector. It's not a purple second sector for them, sadly. They're about half a second off in the middle sector versus mSkyZ's middle sector at this point in time, as I think that SkyZ is on a second lap, actually. It's not an improvement in the first sector for them, though. They do improve the overall time with a new fastest final sector. Now across the line goes GB. It's fifth place for them into the 103s, but it's nowhere near that fantastic time from mSkyZ at the top, a 103.3. mSkyZ take a bow. That's a fantastic time.
That is nearly 2 tenths quicker than Racing Chai in second place. Absolutely sensational work from mSkyZ. I mean, I'm running out of superlatives for this young man. He has been absolutely fantastic. We've got Alex Gillen out on a lap 2. Team radio from Racing Chai messed turn 1 up. So what could have been for Racing Chai? Turn 1 could have been all the difference in terms of the deficit between he and mSkyZ, but there is quite a chunk there in terms of difference. 2 tenths may not seem like a lot on face value, but here in Formula One, it definitely is quite a vast gap that mSkyZ has managed to lodge between he and P2. A truly mesmerising performance. Safso has just set a 16.028 in Sector 1, which is faster than Curbs' first sector on his current personal best lap so far, as now we see him make his way through the S section, heading out of the Roche and Verth curbs, and then heading down towards the Jochen Rindt bend at turn 9. And he'll fly through this segment now. Team radio from Ben Daly. He left it too late, so not able to necessarily improve like he would have hoped, as now Safso goes higher than Curbs for P8, managing to muster somewhat of an improvement, but the gap's still mightily large there between SkyZ and the rest of the field. He is in dominant form here, Dan.
Certainly are, but I tell you what, someone else who's looking reasonably, no, I say that, I was about to say reasonably quick, actually very, very slow, is Alex Gillen. They're not going to improve on this particular lap time. El Rey, though, might do. They've done a personal best in the middle sector, not in the first. As they come up towards the line now then, it's a twitchy back end on that Alfa Romeo, but they managed to get it through the corner, and across the line, it's no improvement in position. It's improved time, I believe, but no improvement in position at all for El Guri. They will start on the second row, albeit the head of the second row in this race. But that is our qualifying list.
That is absolutely sensational for mSkyZ, managing to pull off a sensational lap right at the start of qualifying in Q3, and has really followed on from his blistering performances in all three, well, in both sessions leading up towards that final session of qualifying, and absolutely stellar efforts on his part to bounce back from the very difficult sprint race. But nevertheless, we've still got a full race to bring you very, very shortly. Obviously now with mSkyZ at the head of the field, has a great chance here to bring his very best. Let's take you through the results. mSkyZ fastest and ahead of Razin Chai by nearly 0.2 of a second. El Rey Guri in third place. Alex Gillen in fourth. Timet Marduk starts fifth with GB68 in sixth. Michi Hoyer in seventh place with Zafso in eighth. Curbs in ninth, a gallant performance there to get through to Q3. And Dat Guy Vince finishing in 10th place. Within a second, incredible to think that we're just within a second from Ps1 all the ways down to Ps10. And I think it just goes and pretty much confirms here at this stage, Dan, how competitive this season of F1 Creator Series really is.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you're looking at all of Q3 separated by 0.9 of a second. That's with, I would imagine, mistakes here and there for some of those drivers. But, you know, despite that, you're still looking at really, really solid times. I mean, you take sort of mSkyZ out as something of an outlier, really. That's then everyone within about 7.5 tenths. It's remarkable. I mean, yes, of course, in real-world F1, you would probably see smaller gaps between all those cars, but that's because they're the best drivers in the world driving the best cars in the world. Naturally, those gaps are going to be smaller, but for these guys who are content creators, you know, some of them, albeit, are probably at sort of approaching esports level, in terms of how quick they can drive a car. In particular, you know, some drivers who are not here today, like Tom97, you could cite as an example of that. But, you know, this is still an absolutely magical amount of pace that we're seeing out of these drivers as well. 103.5 for Razin Chai, a 0.5 for El Rey Guri, 0.7 for Alex Gillen, 0.8 for Ben Daly, 0.9 for GB68. So that's the top six, all in the 103s. That's fantastic. That's really, really good pace. And then, of course, Michi Hoyer, Safso, and Curbs are all on a 104.1. They're separated by just hundredths, if not thousandths of a second of one another. It is remarkable how close they are. In fact, it's exactly 1/100th between Safso and Curbs. But then, the sort of slight outlier to all of this is then that guy Vince at the back of the field with a 104.3. So if we were to take away the first and last position here, you're looking at a difference between front to back of just 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, I mean, it is remarkable how close it really is. I mean, you look at those top times set by mSkyZ as well. I mean, obviously, aside from the 0.2 that he lodged on Razin Chai, you allude back to that 6,000th gap between Razin and obviously El Rey Guri, who really did pull off a sensational effort. Obviously, then further down, we had the AlphaTauri coming into play. Obviously, we've got many others that are all looking to try and marshal in times. Timet Marduk leaving it a little late. Do you think he'll be a little, well, kicking himself here at this point, Dan?
I think they might be, but I think that everybody's going to be kicking themselves a little bit because I've just seen the weather forecast before we switch over to it, and we've got our sloppy seconds of the day as far as Formula One is concerned, because it is wet out there. And yes, it's going to be a race of changeable conditions, actually. It's predicted that the rain will come to an end around about 1/3, maybe halfway through the race. It's, of course, an approximate broadcast. You can see it right there. Everybody is out there on an intermediate tyre, and well, let's get ready to rumble, everybody. This is going to be, I hope at least, a very fun, very juicy start to the racing this afternoon. So let's wait and see then. We've got, of course, Curbs and that guy Vince have already got themselves disqualified. I suspect there's been a little bit of a love tap there between the pair of them, but everybody else seems to be making it through the formation lap at this point with no real problems.
No, I mean, it's interesting. The AlphaTauri has instantly decided to zoom ahead. Obviously, mSkyZ at the head of the field, starting on pole for this race. Let us know in the live chat, folks, as to who you think is going to win the Creator Series Austrian Grand Prix. We want to hear from you. 71 laps in waiting as we look to now crown a race winner. Could it be the case that that one driver will pick up a second race win for the first time this season? No one has yet to do it here in this season campaign, season 5. But there is an opportunity here around a very volatile circuit here at Austria. Nevertheless, as now they all line up on the grid. Dan, any predictions from your part?
I think that we're going to have a race. That's my prediction, George.
Fantastic prediction, as well as now the green flags are being waved by the marshals here at this point. We're about to see the red lights come out in front of us. Meraki started from the very back. a last to first on his agenda. He's alongside Dirt Chocolate, but at the front of the field, it's M-Sky-Z as all 5 lights are lit. And it's pedal to the metal. And it is go, 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 go. M-Sky-Z gets away well. So does Racing Chai. He forms right in behind the McLaren as they head in towards turn 1. Alex Gillen already trying to strong arm his way into P3 and comes out of P1 in P3 as well. And has now managed to lofty himself higher than Tiamat Marduk. Really rough start for El Rey Guri, who has lost a feast of places. He's now behind Tiamat Marduk and GB.
He certainly is, yeah, absolutely. He is really stuck in there. He was pushed off of the circuit at the beginning of the race there. Alex Gillen going for the move up the inside, and it was all looking relatively clean. But as they got to the exit of the corner itself, it just looked as though there wasn't quite the full cars with Given, and given by Gillen, as Gillen goes really deep in turn number 4. So deep, you could say that he's at risk of drowning, as up the inside in turn number 6 goes Benjamin Daly. He's having a look everywhere with that Ferrari. He wants to capitalize on that mistake. He wants to be able to get himself up the order here and try and push himself past, but it's not quite working this time for them, and so that then is them settling back into 4th place. But that has been a great opening salvo of moves on this first lap of the Grand Prix, and it also means that the 2 championship protagonists, M-Sky-Z and Racing Chai, are up at the head of the field all on their own.
Yeah, incredible start indeed to this race, side by side again, this time between Zafso and Michi Hoyer as they head up through towards turn 1. It looks like in this case Zafso has won that battle, heads out of turn 1 here on lap 2 of 71. Incredible start though for Tiamat Marduk, who immediately tried to jump on Alex Gillen. And I'm sure they'll come together again very, very soon, as we still see Sky-Z right at the head of the field with Racing Chai in hot pursuit, round the outside from El Rey Guri as he looks to try and garner back the places that he lost at the very start of the race. The wet weather being kicked up by the intermediate compounded tyre here at this stage now as Tiamat Marduk goes on the attack, heading in towards Slosh Gold, looks around the outside. Here this time on Alex Gillen, these 2 rivals, bitter rivals, but a beautiful switchback from Benjamin Daly. Tiamat Marduk looking for that P3 very early into the race. He's going to take the long way round, coming through the Verth and Roche curves, and the Ferrari manages to prance its way into P3, disposing of Alex Gillen in huge style. And what a way for his race to kick off here at Austria.
One of the moves of the season so far. Absolutely brilliant, totally composed, totally controlled, really up to the limit. Absolutely fantastic overtake there from Benjamin Daly. The amount of skill and confidence you've got to have to be able to go around the outside there is incredible. And the fact that they weren't still side by side on the exit of the corner on the run down to 7 is also testament to just how much they were able to commit there and push that Ferrari along, get it round and up into P3. Absolutely brilliant. But what the pair of them need to do now is stop fighting. They need to move up towards the back of these 2 here who are fighting, as up the inside for the race lead goes Racing Chai. He does, and a Max Verstappen to Charles Leclerc almost on M-Sky-Z as he pushes him right to the absolute edge of where he could possibly be at the exit of turn number 3. On the run down to turn 4 now, it's just 1.5 tenths that separate the 2 drivers, and as they turn in, it is still Racing Chai, your race leader, with M-Sky-Z demoted down to 2nd place.
Yeah, incredible stuff indeed. M-Sky-Z losing out on the lead as Racing Chai takes it away from Imperia as well, moving up. Though this time for the McLaren team, El Rey Guri challenging Alex Gillen, taking that 4th place away. Every single driver on intermediate tyres, side by side now between GB68 and Alex Gillen this time too. But GB with the upper hand, he's got the correct line, and he'll now make his way in through towards Jochen Ring curve with the Aston Martin ascending up the order as he looks to try and track El Rey Guri for yet another fight here at the Red Bull Ring.
Absolutely, yeah, just watching them going down the start-finish straight then, it's looking like, oh my goodness, look at this. Racing has just torn away at the front of the field. 1.2 seconds already ahead of M-Sky-Z, who has fallen back dramatically. I'm wondering if maybe they've run over a curb or something and got themselves a bit of floor damage or something like that, because they are now right in the clutches of Ben Daly here. I think that Ben is going to get him. He's gone for the late turn in here to try and straighten the car up and get it pointed down the straight as quickly as he can. It's been a good bit of defensive positioning of the car there from M-Sky-Z, but I feel as though that's only delayed the inevitable. Up to the inside now goes Benjamin Daly onto the brakes. They both go as late as they possibly can, and it looks as though Sky-Z might just have this here. He's going to be side by side with Ben Daly as they go up towards turn number 6, and now then as they go into that corner, don't do it again, Ben, surely not round the outside there at turn 6. No, this time he is shown firmly the door by M-Sky-Z, and that then means that it's going to be a fight that will continue for the next few corners, if not the next few laps between these two, and all the while Racing Chai Chai will be grinning ear to ear. Heath Ledger himself might be worried about that too wide a smile as they start to go through the final turn now, because he's just galloping away at the head of the field.
Yeah, incredible stuff indeed. A great effort from Tiamat Marduk to try and hang around the inside. Very requisite of what we saw him do to Alex Gillen only the small matter of a few laps ago, as now we begin lap 5 of 71. Back in the wheel tracks of M-Sky-Z is Tiamat Marduk, but they're dragging El Rey Guri along for the ride as well as they make their way up through towards turn 3. But just look at the straight line speed, the slipstream in operation here for Ben Daly. Tiamat Marduk up the inside now as he looks to go wheel to wheel here with M-Sky-Z. Knows he needs to try and start pushing and prodding against the McLaren. We know how fast M-Sky-Z is, but Tiamat Marduk undeterred manages to snatch P2 away and needs to put his foot to the floor because Rasin Chai is now 2.3 up the road.
Yeah, late move there from El Rey Guri. Decides to just go for the send as the cars in front have already committed to the corner, and unsurprisingly the door is shut on him as a result. I think he's very lucky not to have picked up any damage or gotten into a spin there as a result. And look at this, back down the order. We've got that guy Vince defending from Michi Hoyer and Dave Gaming, who are fighting one another. The Mercedes driver keen to make up for mistakes of earlier on and get themselves back up this order as high as they possibly can and get a maximum number of points for their championship push. Of course, they managed to win the Constructors as McLaren last season with Rasin Chai. This duo has been able to dominate the Constructors of this last season, and now then they're in a great position to do it again this year, this season I should say, but they are currently up against it a little bit when it comes to Michi's contribution of points in this race so far, so they're going to want to be able to push themselves as far up as they possibly can, and so too will Infratic. It is a tale of two cars really for both Mercedes and Ferrari here, where you've got those languishing on the edge of the top 10, and then of course the other two up in the lead of the race.
Yeah, decent run here as well from Aston Martin with GB68 in 5th, who has managed to keep Alex Gillen behind Safso as well within the wheel tracks, as well as Alex Gillen further back as they look to come toe-to-toe. This time GB with El Rey Guri looks to the inside, decides against the move as they head down through turn 4, and they'll head out now towards turns 5 and 6 now. Of course, this one, the entry into Verthen Roche Curve, yet again, this time on lap 6. El Rey Guri still within the 1 second window of M-Sky-Z, just 2.5 tenths of a second away, with GB68 being towed along for the ride further back, unfortunately receiving a brunt of the spray that's being kicked up from El Rey Guri's car. Now, in terms of the weather scenario, we have, of course, got wet weather staying with us. I don't think it's going to be any worse than Inters for the remaining 10 minutes or so, but we are projecting some clear skies coming out late into the race. So some very interesting strategy calls, I think, to come here, Dan.
I think so. I think that the Inters should be able to last until the crossover point, but the question is going to be as to when that crossover point is, because from the graph that we've got here is, look at this now, Meraki versus Infratic. These two have got a history together, and as they go scrapping away here on the run up towards turn number 3, I have a funny feeling that Fabio might end up losing this one because he doesn't have that inside line, and Jake does love to go for a send. He goes up the inside there. He gets the move done. A dry line is coming, says Alex Gillen, but is it coming quickly enough? I don't think it is. I think they've just dried up some of that line there, but there's still too much standing water for any potential move to a slick tyre just yet. Meanwhile, we can see that Dirk Chocolate is harassing the back of Fabio, as was the other way around, or in fact was this way around at various points in the the sprint race earlier on. And so I think that this is a battle that's worth keeping an eye on, both in front of us here and on the timing tower as this race develops. Up at the front end, we can see that Ben has been able to break 1 second gap now to M-Sky-Z, so that toe benefit that they're going to get is going to be significantly weakened now relative to what, of course, El Rey and GB behind are going to be getting. And certainly it's going to be a fight now, I suspect, between M-Sky-Z and El Rey Guri here. There's just 3 tenths between the pair of them. Whilst over 1 lap, M-Sky-Z has looked incredibly quick, it doesn't look as though they've got that same confidence in a race situation. And certainly now, as we watch them make that run up towards turn number 3, then let's wait and see what happens, if anything at all, here between the pair of them. Nothing this time. It looks as though El Rey turns in later to the corner, gets further beyond the apex to be able to turn in with a sharp turn to try and then straighten the car up and get a good acceleration out the corner. It looks as though that is paying dividends for them now as well, because as we look to El Rey Guri's time here, it is going down and down and down. It's now 3 tenths of a second between the pair of them, but it looks as though they've gotten through turn number 4 perfectly well indeed. Dirk Chocolate has been able to make their way up towards the back of Infratic here, but there's no movement just yet between those two. Dave Gaming and that guy Vince have also swapped places here.
Yeah, Tiamat Marduk, incidentally, has just gone purple in Sector 2, so he is finding more and more time as he looks to try and close the gap between he and Racing Chai. He's got to push because they are sharing the same strategy, though Racing has got a bit of a predicament on his hands because we are due to have the rain stop, I would say, around. It's due to stop between lap 14 and 15. That's what we estimate. So that does mean that we could yet see a decisive measure taken place by either Racing Chai or Tiamat Marduk. Will it be the case that Tiamat Marduk responds to what Racing Chai does? Will Racing Chai go long? Will he come in early? Of course, these are the decisions he's going to have to make. It's going to be very tricky for him to judge because, of course, as this wet weather, persists, there's a strong chance we might not see the dry weather until the middle of lap 14 or maybe even lap 15. So it's going to be a major call for any of these drivers in the top 10 as to what they decide to do for a pit stop.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a real conundrum for them. It's going to be something that they will have to really. Oh, look at this now, as Hoodie Pete gets that move done. Or rather, they don't get that move done. They come out the pits. What am I talking about? They come out the pits then on a set of, is that medium tyres?
Medium tyres. Very early call from Hoodie Pete and took me off guard a little bit. I looked down the order and I could just see the yellow banded compound appearing on the telemetry as Hoodie Pete left the pit lane. It's a very brave call, and I think he's definitely gone too early because the rain is still persisting. The track is still very damp. You never know, it could work out for him. We know that these conditions are approximate, so nothing is necessarily true to form. I would say at this stage we see wheel-to-wheel action now between Dirk Chocolate and Infratic as they come together heading out to the final corner. They will proceed now across the line to commence yet another lap, this time lap 10 of 71, all the way up towards turn 1. Who's bravest as they head on through? It's Infratic who manages to control the pace, control the positioning and maintains P13. Dirk Chocolate will live though to fight another day.
They certainly will, as down towards the back end of the field we see a swap in position between Devil Noob and Chesnoy Gaming. Meanwhile, Hoodie Pete, though, they are not really making any inroads at all to the drivers in front. They are losing time hand over fist now. Well, maybe not hand over fist, that's a bit unfair to them, but it's certainly a 10th here, a 10th there as they go through one corner and another. I think this is far too early. I mean, we can still see spray coming off of those tyres, for goodness sakes. That is far, far too early. I think it's certainly commendable that they've attempted something a bit different to try and get themselves a bit of an advantage, but ultimately it's not really worked out. Plus, if they do start to come back towards those in front of them later on, they'll have already chewed through so much of their tyres, it's not going to really mean anything. Those who go on to dries are then just going to be able to overtake if they've been passed, or disappear up the road if they come out ahead.
Yeah, there's a chance, according to Michi Hoyer, that he has damage that isn't showing. That's what he thinks. Obviously, a question mark, he's not sure, but still, nonetheless, that's going to go against him if that is truly the case. So he's got a little bit of work to do. He's down in 11th. Remember, he was in the top 10 earlier on. No one in the top 18 is yet to box. Of course, we have seen pit stops from B. Roy, who is still on a set of intermediate tyres. He's not decided to jump onto the slicks. One thing I will want to allude to about the timings is that Hoodie Pete's times are improving, but on his outlap and going into the initial laps, he was losing 4 seconds in the middle sector, which is certainly very decisive, as now we're seeing soft tyres applied to Peya. Another early decision made.
A very early decision indeed, and Chesnoid in front of them then isn't seeming to run away at this point, but we'll wait and see how that develops, of course. They've got
DRS enabled.
DRS open, yeah, absolutely, so they've got that going for them. The rear wing on that McLaren is open, so they can now go down into the braking zone here. That will shut naturally the moment that the driver, in the real world at least, steps off of the throttle. That's then when DRS closes, or when the brake is applied, whichever happens first. I think that this might actually be working for them here. Round the outside, they seem to be going on the soft tyres, even though there is still water on the track here. It's clearly dry enough that these tyres are being able to be switched on. And now we're starting to see a flurry of pit stops. Racing Chai for medium, so too for Benjamin Daly. Now we're seeing softs on El Rey Guri and M Sky Z. Mediums for GB68 as well. Hards for Alex Gillen of all things. And Peya is coming along now. Let's see whereabouts they are able to shuffle out compared to everybody else here. They are soaring up the order as they go. Let's just wait and see then as they go through turn number 1. It's P7 for Peya as they come out the pits. Their tyres up to temperature, of course. Everyone else around them is going to have to get their tyres up to temperature. And Safso at the head of the field has got now 11-lap-old intermediate tyres. They've clearly elected not to go in for the double stack there to not then be in the way of their teammate or anything of that nature. But DRS is open. You can see there for all the cars in this train then. It's been open for the previous lap as well. So, yeah, this this then is a changing face in the race then, and whilst it does still look a little bit slick out there, clearly it is dry enough that these tyres are starting to work.
Yeah, stellar decision made there from Pei. A big call as well. We saw it on the face of it that we might have seen the rain stop around about lap 14 in terms of what we're seeing right now. In terms of what we're seeing right now, we are seeing it dry up a lot quicker. 2 laps prior, incidentally, as into the pits comes Zafso. No doubt he's going to lose a lot of time as he comes into box, opts for the soft tyres, taking the race lead, as you'd expect, is Racing Chai. He's held the lead advantage now for quite some time. The gap between he and Tim Marduk relatively stagnant in this stage. Of course, remember, Tim Marduk was working hard to try and close that gap off. Out comes Zafso, 7th fastest, that's not too bad, and comes out right in the midst of fighting with the top 6. That's not a bad place to be, especially when you're stopping later than everybody else, and he has those precious soft tyres as well, Dan.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised by that, really. It might be that maybe Safso's point to change tyres was actually the better option. I must confess, I forget what position he was in prior to the stops, but I feel like it was lower than 7th place. So I think that he's actually benefited by staying out that extra lap, and just whilst the last of the intermediate conditions survive, as I start to hiccup, then they've really been able to benefit from that. It's a really, really good thing for Safso there. Now it means then that we've got all sorts of fighting going on up and down the field. I'm going to hand over to you, George, whilst I hold my breath to try and get rid of these hiccups.
Incredible. Dave Gaming now in 9th place, being closed down by that guy Vince. Incidentally, now we're seeing these fastest laps come cascading inwards now, as we're seeing Dave Gaming and Vince coming together. Still no room for an improvement just yet. I can tell you this, though, that a fastest lap brought to the table by Meraki with a 107, which is certainly stellar. That last lap now as he cruises on lap 14. Dat guy Vince now looking to utilise the DRS as he also utilises the slipstream. Can he try and challenge heading up through towards turn 3? No, not quite close enough, but he might yet get a chance heading out of turn 3 and towards turn 4. We'll need to make sure that he gets the acceleration, that he gets the pace. Zafso now moves ahead of Peya as well for that P6. He was threatening it earlier on, and Zafso, Season 1 champion, is now part of a double Aston Martin fraternity that are occupying Ps5 and 6. A fantastic run so far, and the strategy seems to be working here, Dan.
It certainly does. Saf is looking pretty racy all of a sudden. I think maybe they were banking on a drier track, and therefore a drier setup was opted for. But it's looking to be paying off for them. I mean, they're on soft, so they probably, I mean, let's be honest, they will have to stop again at some point. They're not going to be able to take these softs until the end of the race. I think the real interesting ones here are the driver on the screen, Alex Gillen, and F1 Alex TTV as well, down in 16th place. They're both on hard compounds of tyre, but they're currently in trains with other cars, making use of DRS and being able to stick with those cars on the medium compound. So it's a bit softer, it's a bit grippier, a bit quicker. And so for them, and also for the likes of GB68, you know, if they're able to keep on putting in the times that they're doing so far, with a good amount of pace underneath them, as we see here, there's now MSkyZ making the move, and it's up the inside of El Rey Guri. El Rey turns in as tight as they possibly can. Briefest bit of contact between the pair of them, but I think they had to yield there. There was enough space alongside them being given up, or being taken up, I should say, by MSkyZ. And so the McLaren driver is able to move up into P3. That's now 1.7 seconds they need to close up on Benjamin Daly, and then 3.3 after that to get back onto the race lead. I think those for the softs, I mean, they've done a great job in being able to take advantage now and being able to get the moves done and being able to move themselves forwards. But again, yeah, I think it's the medium tyres are going to be the really interesting ones. I think the hards, if there are no safety cars between now and the end of the race, Alex Gillen could potentially be in a race-winning position. But it's all ifs and buts, you know. If we end up getting to that stage, then of course they're going to be hunted down. There's going to be drivers on softer compounds, whether that be soft or mediums, come the end of this race, who'll be chasing them down when they're on really old and dead hard tyres. It's going to be interesting to watch from here on out, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think so, as we now see Alex Gillen looking to try and protect the place against Michi Hoyer, coming together out of turn 3. Now, alluding back to the tyres, it certainly looks like the medium tyre is the better race tyre here at this point. Obviously, Racing Chai and Tim Marduk, I'm sure, will issue that. MSkyZ, incidentally, who was 5 seconds back only a lap or so ago from Racing Chai at the top, that delta has only moved outwards rather than inwards. He's now seen it drop out to 5.2, so not yet making the inroads on that soft compounded tyre. And whilst obviously Zafso does hold the fastest lap of the race, while that's all good and and wonderful and all. Obviously, later on, as we make our way through to the deeper echelons, those tyres will eventually die off, and you can't continue mustering in these faster times because eventually that will lead to the deterioration of the compound, and you never know, you might find yourself getting overcut by those on that medium tyre.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, whatever ends up happening, I would say that those on the mediums are currently the ones, pardon the pun, in the driver's seat. Because as far as the strategy is concerned, because I mean, right now, if you're on a soft tyre, then eventually you're going to have to pit. You're either going to go onto mediums or hards. Both of those are going to be slower than a fresh set of softs towards the end of the race, which of course those on mediums will likely be switching on to. And so when it comes to that, I mean, you've got then a situation where you're going to be hunted down on older, deader tyres on that fresher, grippier rubber. It's exactly the same scenario that we were saying with Alex Gillen earlier on, albeit a step softer compound, because they will, we would imagine that, again, those on softs now will be finishing the race on mediums. So it's an interesting dilemma here. I think that really those on softs are only going to benefit if we end up seeing a safety car. That's the only thing which will see them getting a good option towards the end of the race here.
Yeah, certainly in the initial, I think they will benefit. MSkyZ, incidentally, off the back of that, getting closer to Tiamat Marduk. He's managed to knock to within that 5-second gap as we now see them come out of turn 1. Rasin Chai vastly up the road, a 4.2-second gap between he and Tiamat Marduk. Now as SkyZ goes on the attack as we ride on board with him now up towards turn 3 on lap 18. P2 on the table. The McLaren snatches it away, and coming together, El Rey Guri and Tiamat Marduk, but he does have the DRS, which could yet protect him against El Rey Guri's approach. It certainly does so, but El Rey Guri also now on the attack as he looks to persevere for a podium place.
Yeah, El Rey with a bit of a desperate move, I think, there to try and follow through on MSkyZ. On Benjamin Daly, Ben left the door open to allow SkyZ through, struggling to keep up with these soft tyres, says GB68. GB, you're doing a marvellous job, young man. Don't you worry at all. You're doing an absolutely stellar job so far. But yeah, I mean, for El Rey there to just try and send it at the last second, I mean, we've seen that from them a couple of times in this race now, or certainly over the course of the race weekend so far. And it's just, again, it's sort of not thinking the moves through. It's sort of just going for an instinctual move up the inside, but you're not up the inside of the car in front. So they're already committing to a corner. And on both of these occasions, there was one with SkyZ earlier on, and now with this one with Ben Daly, there's been contact made. And they need to just calm down a little bit. We know that they've got the pace. We know they've got the tyre advantage. They just need to wait for the right time to deploy it.
Yeah, they certainly do. Dave Gaming now managing to deploy his DRS to the benefits of overtaking that guy Vince here at this stage, and now up to 9th place. And we'll look to persevere yet again as now that guy Vince opens up his rear wing on the attack of the Haas further on in front. Can he retort? Not quite. Unfortunately, having to stay within the aero. Once again, we're seeing them both on medium tyres, so expect them to come into the mixer coming in towards the middle stages of the race. We're still only in lap 19 of 71, a long way to go. So still opportunities for all the drivers across the grid for an improvement in terms of their current positioning out on track. Of course, we do see safety cars quite regularly as well. So there is opportunities in terms of the strategy for all of the Creator Series drivers. Here at this stage, though, MSkyZ, who's currently sat in 2nd place, starting to lurch forward and further forward and really closing down on the gap between he and Rasin Chai right now. Remember, that was a 5-second gap. He has now managed to successfully dock that 1 second. He's now 3.9 away from him up at the very top. Now remember, MSkyZ, a race winner back in China. Rasin Chai still yet to pick up his first win of the season, but last weekend managed to come 2nd in the mystery race, finishing just behind Tom 97. So he knows exactly how to get the job done.
Certainly does, although he's not going to be too appreciative of what MSkyZ is doing at the moment, because right now he is simply towing along Benjamin Daly and GB68. El Rey is in there as well, but as we say, those on the softs, I suspect if they're not able to get up to the medium runners, pass them and then gallop away, they're going to end up just suffering towards the back part of this race. So for my money, I would say that those medium runners in the top 5 right now, so Rasin, Ben, and then GB68, they're the ones who are most likely to take the win or the podium here today. And all SkyZ is doing is now just closing down that gap between those two chasing cars on the mediums, and then, of course, Rasin at the head of the field. That being said, whilst that is all going on, of course, we've got Ben in that 3rd place right now. He's keeping use of the DRS as they keep on going here, and I think that Ben is eventually going to get impatient, because right now SkyZ is not really making that progress that they would like to see. 4 seconds is the gap currently. It's been hovering around 4 seconds and 3.9 seconds for the previous lap. He needs to start making some inroads now, otherwise I think Ben will just start to fight with him, and then if they start to fight, they'll all just start to slow each other up, and that will essentially be gifting the win to Racing. Meanwhile, we can see Peya here getting the move done on Safso, so soft versus soft, so this is a perfectly equal fight here, and DRS assistance means that McLaren moves ahead of the Aston Martin.
Yeah, stellar move from Peya, needed to be done as well. Goes defensive, heading through towards turn 6, but still managing to hold off the relentless Safso in the Aston Martin. Separated by a McLaren now, the two Astons that currently operate in Ps 5 and 7, heading through towards the final sector. There is El Guri, who's currently in 4th, chasing down Tiermet Marduk, who I have to tell you, very smart view taken here by Tiermet Marduk, just using that DRS that SkyZ is able to provide. SkyZ is gaining ever so slightly on Racing Chai further up, so it might be the case that Tiermet Marduk is just biding his time here, waiting for the right moment to strike, knowing when the mediums are going to come into the fold ahead of the softs, and he's in a very good position here, especially off the back of securing decent points in the sprint race. Another plethora of decent points in the main race, the Grand Prix, would go a long way in terms of the championship fight as well. He currently sits 10th in the standings. He's only actually raced 2 races, his best result being the 2nd place that he managed to grab at the Temple of Speed at Monza, not only taking P2, but also taking the intermediate tyre lead as well. As we now see them battling again, it's Peya and Safso. Safso looking to retort after the move that Peya made earlier on, unable to do so, but once again we see the two soft compound users come together heading through the middle sector.
Absolutely, yeah, and they are battling hard with one another. That's simply inviting Jake into the mix as well. Jake behind them also on a set of softs, however, so it's not necessarily going to be to a huge detriment to these drivers to have another driver in there. I mean, yes, of course, it's not a great thing to invite a rival into the fight and potentially be able to take both places from you, but as it is right now, you know, there's not an enormous thing going on here. Interestingly, Safso not electing to use DRS on the run up the hill, so they're deciding to stay in behind for the time being. I wish we could just jump back to that fight, actually, P7. And what's going on there, because Safso is now fighting with Jake. It's now 3 wide down the back straight here then, and DRS is open for both cars here. I think Jake is going to go for the send. Let's see what happens then as Safso hangs it around the outside. He's going to try and do what Alex Albon tries with Lewis Hamilton. He does it successfully, unlike Alex Albon all those years ago in 2020, and that now means that he's able to get himself up into P6 once more. That means he's acting still as that great rear gunner for his teammate, whilst also, of course, scoring good points for Aston Martin with 5 and 6 at the moment for those two. As they continue to squabble, though, it is going to mean that that gap will just continue to open up between GB68 and their teammate. Speaking of which, GB is still hanging on to the soft tyre runners of El Rey and MSkyZ, and that is a gap that is starting to come down now between MSkyZ and Racing Chai. There is now a little bit of impetus, it seems, from MSkyZ to start pushing on, unless, of course, it's more to do with the fact that Racing has simply lifted off a little bit. He's now driving a bit more conservative, a bit more within his means to make sure he doesn't make a mistake.
Yeah, not only that, saving the tyres as well. Just want to look at Meraki's pace as well. Remember, starting P20 at the back of the grid, so has masterminded the strategy brilliantly, and at the same time, 7 steps away from perhaps even taking a race win. The last to first could well be on, and not only that, remember, he is on those soft tyres and trying to whittle his way closer and closer, though he might yet get undone by those on the mediums. We'll have to wait and see. GB68, though, driving a superb race, currently on medium tyres, 12 laps accrued on them as he perseveres in behind El Guri in 4th. The gap now very fragmented, 4 tenths between he and the Alfa Romeo as they head into the pits now. We're looking on our screens, in comes SkyZ as well as Racing Chai. They're all coming in now. In comes El Guri, the instant responders. It's El Guri, sorry, coming into the pits. A big decisive moment. Of course, that is our first casualty off the softs.
Interestingly, they go for another set of soft tyres. I would have expected a set of mediums or hards to go on at this point to the end of the race, but based on the evidence of what we've seen so far, those softs, you know, they've been able to get them to last for, what's that, about sort of 10, 15 laps, something in that region. And in fact, actually, we've got data to support that. Yeah, 13 laps is all they did on those. So based on that logic, these tyres are only going to go to around about lap 38, maybe they could stretch them to lap 40. And that's going to be it. I'm not entirely certain why they've done that there, but I mean, we'll wait and see if other drivers respond to that as well. Meraki's been able to make a move now on Safso. You can see them there up in P5 instead of P6, as it had been the previous lap. And yeah, this is looking interesting, I think it's fair to say at this point, as Safso sets a new fastest lap, in fact, of the race as they respond to the challenge. But that being said, I mean, they're tucked in behind Meraki at the moment, so that's a very old message if they have set the fastest lap, because they've certainly not done it until possibly right now. Let's wait and see. Cross the line goes Safso. No fastest lap this time.
No, not at all. Safso now heading up through behind Meraki, and El Guri, currently purple in that middle sector as well, so really starting to bring the time in. Safso, who's now trying to launch a charge here on the Williams, still currently back to, well, nose to tail between the pair as they now head out of turn 1. They'll venture up through towards turn 3. Chance for Safso to unleash the power in the Aston as they make their way up through towards the second sector.
Absolutely, but just at the moment where DRS detection was available, it then meant that Meraki was just that tiniest fraction behind, so that then meant that it's a very easy, very academic repassing maneuver down that back straight for them there. So Safso's got it all to do again, but that being said, the pair of them may well be just working together here, because as they go along, you can see that gap is actually opening up to that guy Vince behind, whilst here we can see that Dirk Chocolate gets a moved on Curbs. Curbs, who of course started so well this weekend, did so well in the sprint, is now all the way down in 15th position, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. Still more time to be accrued on this middle stint of this run. While saying that, we're only within still the first half of action. Into the pits comes Meraki, as does Safso, so yet more decisions being made by tyres, currently making changes. There's Meraki now, medium tyres coming into play as they now look to try and launch themselves higher. Some big decisive calls made here at this stage, Dan.
Absolutely, yeah. And so we will watch with great interest, of course, as they come out of the pits then. Jake ahead of Safso for the time being, of course. Fresh medium tyres, though, for both of those drivers, and just behind Peya. So Peya's undercut has worked beautifully, has managed to get by the other two cars they were fighting with, and now they're starting to approach traffic. And traffic, and this is me now trotting out some of my endurance racing conversation here, but traffic can be a blessing and a curse. Of course, as we start to go through here, we can see now Michi Hoyer losing the place there to El Guri, who's on those really quick, brand new soft tyres. But of course, you know, as you go through the traffic here, the first person to meet the traffic, like Peya, they're of course going to be the ones who get bottled up behind them. They're the ones who are going to have to figure out the way past. For everyone else behind, they're going to be able to take advantage of any moves that Peya does, because of course Peya is going to be essentially forcing that car in front offline. But as they continue on, the thing that might become an issue is, of course, when you start to have things like Peya getting that moved on Curbs you've seen just there in the timing tower, but then whether the other cars are able to follow them through or not. If they're not, then of course Peya might be able to start opening up a gap, as they're starting to do. They're starting to now get the move done on Dirk Chocolate, and they make that move done there, and they start to tear on off after F1 Alex. All the while, Curbs has not yet relented to their teammate, which is now just allowing Peya to start tearing away from the pair of them here. Now, Curbs here could do a real solid for Meraki by holding up Safso as long as possible, which it looks like is what they're doing. Meraki's gone for the late send on Dirk Chocolate there into turn number 3, and now as they come down towards turn number 4 here, Peya's going to get that move done on F1 Alex, and is Alex now going to defend that position from Meraki? It looks like they might be able to for the next few corners at least, but the question is now going to be whether or not Peya can open up a second's gap ahead of Meraki by the time that happens. But no, Jake is right there. There's a mistake from F1 Alex, and they get themselves up and past, and so the gamble has not worked for Peya in terms of trying to break that 1 second to Meraki behind. Instead, they're now going to have to filter along and try and simply do the best they can in fending off the Williams until they catch the back of Infratic 11 seconds up the road.
Yeah, obviously F1 Alex adopting the hard tyre strat, very much the same strat as Alex Gillen further up, but they're getting eaten alive right now. Alex Gillen losing Delta to Dave Gaming. The mediums really are performing at the highest order right now. Of course, many of them sharing the same tyre life throughout the order now. Meraki jumping into 11th place ahead of Peya. A truly fantastic move, one that was needed, just on the precipice now of the top 10, which he can surely gamble on, as we now see Alex Gillen make his way out of Slosh Gold. Safso now up to 13th place ahead of F1 Alex, who is losing time hand over fist, and now seeing Dirk Chocolate up the inside as they now head down in towards Slosh Gold at turn 4. Dirk Chocolate getting the move done and successfully negotiating his way past F1 Alex, who's got a 3-second time penalty. Just to let you guys know, plenty of warnings flying about at this point. M-Sky-Z on 2 warnings, as is Rasin Chai. 1 more and it could be a penalty.
Dear oh dear, if that were to happen at this stage right now, then that's Ben Daly in the effective lead of the race, because of course, whilst we've been watching all these battles throughout the field, up at the front end, it seems as though the softs, as we have seen from others pitting onto medium tyres, or in the case of El Rey, another set of softs, those softs seem to have now fallen off of the cliff, and it's the mediums that are very much back in control here. That being said, in a straight line, it doesn't seem as though M-Sky-Z is suffering too much, because he's able to keep GB68 behind all the way down that back straight. But yeah, it now seems that Ben up back in the lead again of this little train that is following along after Rasin Chai, and so the gap now down to that sort of 2.9 it was, now up to 3.1 seconds. So there has been a bit of time gained onto Rasin through the use of M-Sky-Z as a tow on those softer tyres, but ultimately with those softs now going over the cliff, it seems that is something that is an option very much out of the window now to be able to continue doing that. So instead, Ben has retaken command of this particular group of cars and is trying their best to catch up onto the back of Rasin Chai, but it's not really working at this particular point in time.
No, he's having a great race so far, Timoth Marduk. Second place in this classification and still being pursued by M-Sky-Z, but the tyres, I think, definitely siding more with the mediums. Infratic coming out and saying there's no threat of rain, apparently, and in accordance to the telemetry that we're seeing, he would be absolutely spot on. There is a little percentage of chance, but in accordance to what we're seeing, there is still definitely going to be the case that we're going to be having dry conditions in the immediate. Lap 31 of 71 as we now head through 40 laps still to go. As we now see M-Sky-Z still on the tail of Timoth Marduk. We've got side-by-side action with Dak Guy Vince now moving up into 6th place. And on those medium tyres, sharing the same tyre life as Dave Gaming once again. 19 laps accrued on those mediums and yet still finding them effective, making the big moves, and he's in the top 6.
Certainly is, absolutely. And it's looking good so far for Vince, I must say. It's been a good turnaround after a little bit of a knockback earlier on in qualifying, of course. And then the sprint race, we saw that they had a great deal of pace underneath them. We're able to fight El Rey for the win of that one. And so we'll wait and see how it all progresses at this stage. You might have just seen there a little bit of spitting of rain. There is little drops of it here, there around the circuit, but from the telemetry data we're seeing, it shouldn't ever get to a level of rainfall or a level of track surface water that will necessitate a pit stop onto intermediate. So we should be dry conditions all the way to the end of this race. There's another one of these penalties then for Dirk Chocolate, and it's 3 seconds for them. We can see that also F1 Alex, Chesnoid and B-Roy have all got themselves a penalty as well. So we will wait and see as to how many cars get penalties and how much those penalties end up being at this stage. But right now, as things are looking relatively calm, we say that, touching all of the wood that is at our disposal, let's throw over to Scott and have a look at some replay. Scott, over to you.
Hello, I am here. I've been keeping an eye on everything, and I've got some updates for the race for us. First off, recently, a few laps ago, we had Safso in a bit of a fight with Persia and Meraki, quite close. Everyone just giving each other enough respect, but he also didn't back down. I'd maybe been a bit nervous with this, but he goes for it, gets the overtake on both of them, keeps Meraki there, but Meraki really goes for the dive. As we can see, he just keeps that outside line, and Safso went up to 6th place. That was a great bit of driving by all 3 of them. Persia will be a bit unlucky to be left behind a little bit there. We also, going back to some of the earlier clips, we had B-Roy having a little bit of an incident all the way on lap 4. Let me just get that ready for you, sorry. Having a little bit of an issue, not being his day apparently, but there is a lot of laps left. He can come back to it, but he just gets on this curb slightly, loses the car on those tyres, gets the wing damage, and as you can see in his face, that is definitely not what he wanted to do so earlier on. Now, going on to the lap 1 chaos that we had, just interrupt me when we're going too long, guys, but we have JD, who was our kind of victim in lap 1. As we can see, he is going in for that, gets a little bit of touch to Infante, loses a lot of time there, And then, as we can see, just gets a bit caught up in the field, gets put right into the wall. You know what it's like when you're that slow car in front, you've got a lot of drivers trying to get around you. He's sadly been a victim to that. He would definitely not have wanted that to happen. And last but not least, we had Chesnoid and Alex having a little bit of a touch on turn 1, lap 1. I'll show you that right now for you. A little bit unfortunate for Chesnoid in this regard. As we can see, we started off very nice, very wet though, you can barely see up ahead. Big respect for everyone for not having a total complete carnage, but he does get pushed off by Alex and has to go over that curb and just loses probably 10 positions or even more as everyone just flies back. And that, guys, is your race clip update so far in this race.
Thank you very much, Scott. Incredible footage indeed. Great to call back to some of those moments that we may not have witnessed or might have missed through the course of the broadcast. And nevertheless, obviously we know the challenges around the Austrian circuit, especially when you levy it up with a greasy track and water plummeting from the skies. It definitely does cause a little bit of carnage as we now make our way around, this time on lap 35 of 71. Pit window has opened. For those on the medium tyres, apparently a one-stop strategy in resume. Obviously, we've had one stop already for quite a few of the drivers. Mitchie Hoyer now about to cross the line to begin his lap as well. Lap 35 of 71 in hot pursuit of Alex Gillen, with Dave Gaming ahead of them, as well as that guy Vince, as M-Sky Z now battles back against Tiamat Marduk for that P2. Ben Daly looking to try and challenge, but 51 thousandths between them, and now M-Sky Z coming straight back up as they head down towards Slosh Gold. And not only that, GB68 looking to try and take advantage of the situation. They're going to come wheel to wheel. The Aston Martin, GB68, no love lost between Ben Daly and GB, but GB68 managing to secure that P3 and has stricken Tiamat Marduk down to 4th. A big shot there from GB68, who has been consistent. He's on those medium tyres, shares the same strategy as Tiamat Marduk, but has just kept himself quietly in the race. It's been a very careful, managed race. And could this be the case, Dan, that this is him mustering in the faster lap times prior to making his stop?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's looking very, very good as far as GB is concerned now, because we are closing in on Rasin Chai at this point. It's 2.5 seconds the gap now. It's as close as it has been for quite some time. There's now DRS available for GB here. They're making the run up the hill. I wonder if they're going to go for the move here or whether they're going to stick him behind. No, sticking behind for the time being, it seems. They just hit that apex there. We jump on board, of course, and now on power on exit. It looks as though, despite the age of those tyres, Sky Z has got a great deal of grip underneath them still in the traction zone. And whilst GB does then make use of DRS here, he's not quite able to get into any sort of striking distance at all. So this is something which is going to be interesting here, because again, it comes down to a limitation in terms of the tyre of the car in front. You know, is Rasin going to be able to just start to gallop away now that they've got M-Sky Z in the mirrors once again, knowing that that medium tyre that they're carrying has got more to be exploited from it than the soft tyre that is being used by M-Sky Z? Or is, you know, Sky Z going to just prove a cork in the bottle? I mean, it's one of these things where it looks to me, for having watched these guys race so many times now, it strikes me that Sky Z looks a bit too much in the mirrors after they've made an overtake. They don't seem to then have the confidence to get the foot down, get the good lap times in, and just go tearing on up the road. But it's one of these things where, I mean, GB is pointing it out, absolutely, we need to work together to get Rasin, and that's exactly what these three need to do, but it seems to me that they're not really doing it effectively. I think the effective thing to do would be for the two medium runners to just abuse their tyres a little bit, get themselves past and away from M-Sky Z so they don't have the soft tyre runner to act as a cork in the bottle anymore, and then just start to push together as just the two of them, Ben and GB. But yeah, it's one of these things we'll have to just keep an eye on as we go. Meanwhile, for El Rey Guri, they're in 5th place right now, 3.2 seconds off of this fight that we're watching here. But they are on... they're on a set of soft tyres, of course. They've taken now 1 lap or fewer than what they did on their original soft tyre run. So we'd imagine that with the lower fuel loads and with the track starting to ramp up, they should be able to take them a bit longer. But I'm not sure what benefit they're necessarily going to get from using them that extra little bit longer. We'll have to wait and see on that one if they do, in fact, catch the back of these guys, which, I mean, they've been able to take a significant chunk out of them in the last part of that lap there.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, M-Sky Z's tyre life at the moment, 26 lap old softs, but yet he's still matching, if not doing better than Razin Chai, who's on 26 lap all medium. So they're toe-to-toe in terms of tyre life, as now we see Tiermet Marek going up the inside, and that was less than kind heading out of turn 3. They rub shoulders, they bang wheels, but Tiermet Marek comes out of that turn 3 segment and out ahead of GB68. As we can now see, GB68, is he struggling with fuel here? Needs a masterclass in fuel saving. Is he going to run out of fuel towards the end of the race?
Well, that's the big question. I think that's what they, that's what they need to work on here, is just by being part of this train. Not only is this train going to help in terms of benefiting their pace in trying to catch Razin, but it also means that they're going to be able to then try and, be able to use the DRS, be able to use the lift and coast, then get themselves back on target as far as fuel is concerned. Because if they don't do that, then, finishing on the podium or not is the least of their worries. They need to really make sure they've got enough to survive to the end of the race in a competitive state. Otherwise, they could end up falling all the way outside the points potentially, depending on where the car gives up the ghost as far as fuel is concerned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all a case of not only strategizing your tyres, but also your usage of fuel, as we now see a very dynamic move from Peya further down for that P10 spot. Jumps ahead of Michi Hoyer, who exits, and also Zafso smelling an opportunity to potentially increase his prospects from P12 upwards, as now Tiermet Marek and Skyzy come together for that P2 place. As now down the inside goes Peya, a fight coming out of turn 4. Tiermet Marek in the Scuderia Ferrari, now up into second, and Skyzy down to third. So now the Ferrari on the push, as now we see a 3-wide scenario here this time. Peya in the middle, contact made, as now Zafso and Michi Hoyer look to try and bring him down a peg or two in the classification, but couldn't quite get him all the way. Michi Hoyer is still stuck in behind Peya, with Zafso now up to 10th.
Tell you what, I thought we were going to have a sort of a Toro Rosso style suspension explosion there, with the two cars either side pinching the front end of the McLaren there of Peya. But yeah, it's all seeming to be very close but very respectful racing for the most part here between these drivers, and so it's looking good as far as all of this is concerned. That being said, though, up at the front, I find very interesting right now. We can see, of course, this move going on here between them. Now we jump up to the front of the field once more. But yeah, with all this scrapping that these three are doing now, not only is it inviting El Rey into the fight, but they're actually getting closer to Razin throughout all this time. 1.8 seconds now separates Ben Daly from Razin Chai. And then, of course, just a half second back for both M-Sky-Z and GB68 as well, as appropriate. And then 1.3 seconds back to El Rey Guri. So it's, I think that maybe this is not the end that we've seen in sight just here yet. And it's going to be interesting to see how these things shape out towards the end of the race. In particular, M-Sky-Z's tyre saving here. They might even be able to do what El Rey has done and go for another set of softs. They might be able to stretch them out to the end of the race here and stay competitive compared to everybody else. What's going to be interesting, I think, for me, is El Rey's tyres and whether or not they're going to be able to keep them in good nick towards the end, because there's a reason they went off of their previous tyres on lap 13. They didn't get a wing change during that particular stop, so is there any tyre-saving issue for them or not? We will have to wait and see, but what we do see now in front of us is Zafso going for the move up the inside on the start-finish straight on Dave Gaming. That's P8 for the Aston Martin driver. They're now going to target Alex Gillen ahead of them, as Michi Hoyer was in the pits there. I think that was. Yes, it was. And so, yeah, we jump back up to the fight in P4 then. And Sky-Z now shuffled down the order here as he and GB continue to scrap and fight one another. They have allowed Benjamin Daly to get over a second ahead of them.
And I don't think Tiermet Marek is interested about working together now. He's putting the squeeze on Razin Chai, and the delta is falling away time after time. He's already found 3/10 in the last lap alone on Razin Chai at the top, and it's coming down even more. It's 1.6 between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. Razin Chai, he could be tyre saving. He shares the same strats as Tiermet Marek, but also Benjamin Daly has been patient as well. M-Sky-Z coming into the pits, not a surprise, because he's amassed 29 laps on that soft tyre, and now I'd imagine he'll put another set on in order to take them to the finish.
Absolutely, yeah, a bit of a sketchy moment going into the pits there for M-Sky-Z, where they went sideways. He's got medium tyres apparently, so that's going to be interesting to see their progress after this. Oh, now we've got yellow flags in the third sector. What is that? That is Devil Noob going very slowly indeed. They're down in 16th place. They've been able to recover to the circuit, so just local yellows. No virtual or full safety car as a result of that, but I wonder what happened there with them. Meanwhile, back up the order, we were briefly looking at GB68 there in third place. They've been able to get back within DRS range of Ben Daly here, so very, very good effort from the Aston Martin driver to get themselves back into contention now. 0.7 of a second away from Ben at this point, and 1.1 to 1.2 seconds ahead of El Rey Guri behind as well. All the while, they are all catching up to the back of Rasin Chai, who is now only 1.3 seconds ahead of them. This is all coming to a head here, and I suspect then with let's take a look here at the M Sky Z's tyres. They managed to take those softs 30 laps before they managed to take them off again. El Rey has taken their current set of softs 18 laps, so based on that and based on the performance of their teammate, they're going to need to take them off again around lap 55 or so. So that's then when they're going to need to come off. Then they could go for yet another set of softs and take them to the end from that point. But it does mean that we are likely to see another stop for El Rey Guri before the end of this race. So this really now is a question of the top three, I think. And Rasin versus Ben versus GB.
Yeah, well, M Sky Z now on the assault. He is so much faster in the middle and latter sectors, and his first sector was a 16.9 on these medium tyres. He is so quick. He is trying to marshal back the time that he has lost through the usage of those very old soft tyres, and B-Roy has retired. Yellow flags in sector 1 and 3.
They're in the pit lane, I think.
But he is in the pit lane, so it will not go to a safety car. In the meantime, though, I do want to head across to Scott, who can give us another look at the Tiamat Marduk fight.
Yes, I can do that right there. Give me 1 second, get the right one up. We are here. You can see Ben is going for it, goes straight in that inside line, almost barges GB right out of the way on lap 38. I was listening a bit longer. He did mention himself it was probably a bit much, but at the end of the day, he just had to get his elbows out, and that is how he was able to do it. Coming into the turn 4, or turn 3, people do that.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much, Scott. A stellar view on that. GB68 is being forced to defend as well because El Rey Guri's all over him like a rash, but he is following Tiamat Marduk, so we'll have the benefits of DRS. So it's starting to formulate together, but just look at that gap at the front end, Dan. 1.4 now between Rasin Chai and Tiamat Marduk, so this race is far from over just yet.
Certainly is, and I think that what's going to be really interesting is the point when these drivers elect to go for their stops and then what they choose to put onto their cars. Because, of course, you know, we could see someone maybe go for a Hail Mary now, go for a stop onto mediums and try and get a massive undercut on those in front. If they've got another set of mediums, in fact, to be able to take to the end in this race. Or they could be trying to stay out as late as possible and go for a set of softs to the end. That's another possibility, of course. But ultimately, the thing that's going to be really interesting is what happens when they get onto that fresh rubber. And there's a lockup there from GB68. You could see that front left tyre under-rotating through the first corner. That being said, it hasn't really hurt them too much because they've got that DRS, but it is so close between the three cars as they go into turn number 3. I think El Rey there just not anticipating the lack of grip for their rivals in front, and so had to take a little bit of avoiding action, otherwise they'd have gone into the back of them here, and that might give them ideas as well to go for a move, but not this time. As they go down to turn number 4 then, El Rey continues in P4, Ben in P2, and GB in the middle, stuck in the middle with you in P3.
Incredible. Tiamat Marduk still in second and trying to bring the gap down. Maraki now up to 5th as now we see Alex Gillen moving down the pack as he goes side by side with Zafso, wheel to wheel now as they head through towards turn 6 and turn 7. They stay together as now they look to try and marshal the attack. Zafso now around the outside. Alex Gillen, a sitting duck, as now Peya looks to go onto the attack, and there's nothing the AlphaTauri could do about that. Zafso finding the line, finding the pace. The exit was Bliss, as now he on the 18-lap-old medium tyres, following him through Peya as well. He is getting eaten alive. Alex Gillen, no question, coming into the pits to exchange. Oh, sorry, Dave Gaming coming into the pits. Alex Gillen still out there on those really old hard tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of these things now where I think that Alex is simply just holding out for a safety car in the hopes that then track position is able to be converted into good tyres, and then they go for oh, what on earth just happened there for M Sky Z? Massive puff of smoke as they came into the braking zone for turn number 3 there. It looked like they just locked everything up and started to slide sideways into the corner. I don't know what on earth we just saw. But yeah, they are now starting to be a bit caught here. And so I think this could then be factoring into the decisions of those up in front to maybe stick this out longer and try and just get themselves into a position where they can go for a late stop onto softs rather than something a bit more drastic as what mSkyZ has done here. Because now, look at the front of the field. Benjamin Daly is within 1 second of the race lead. Racing Chai has no longer got it all easy up at the front, and Ben has not only got himself, but he's brought GB and El Rey Guri with him.
Yeah, and this could be a grandstand finish because mSkyZ is putting in purple sectors in the first sector. Got caught up in traffic on that last lap, so he could not stage another purple 2 sectors in 2 and 3. But Benjamin Daly now opening up the rear wing as he now closes up to Racing Chai, who despite leading the race, Safso now moving past Meraki. SkyZ now ahead of his teammate Peya. He's up to 7th place now. So we've got lots of movement throughout this grid order. He's only 2 tenths behind Meraki down in P6 as we're now seeing them make their way down towards Slosh Gold. He opens up that rear wing, goes in on the assault against Meraki here for P6. He's a man on a mission. It's mSkyZ who reaches for the skies, takes P6 away. Safso next on his list. He's going to bring down surely a Season 1 champion in a bid to try and launch a charge for the race lead and potentially the race win on these medium tyres.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's just take a look at this. It looked for a moment there as though he was going to try and go for a move up the inside into the penultimate corner. We've seen him do it earlier on in this race, but as he comes through that final corner there, you can see the difference in grip, how he's able to just turn the car in, even in the dirty air. And with DRS open, it is no contest whatsoever. He gets ahead of Safso, I think, before the detection point of DRS, though we'll find out in a second here as they go across that line. And yes, he did. So that then means that Safso now gets the benefit of DRS. That's going to keep him just that little bit ahead of Alex Gillen as well. And as they come up to the detection line, it's going to be so close. But I think that Alex will just have snuck his way into getting DRS once again there. And he does. You can see that rear wing open like the letterbox that it is on the back of the Formula 1 car. But it is a very close fight indeed. 9 tenths, 1 second or so between them all there, but this is the fight that we want to see. The top end of the field, where we've now got Ben Daly, El Rey Guri and GB68 in that order behind Racing Chai, all vying for potential victory here in the Austrian Grand Prix. And this then is something so close. Ben, of course, at the start of the sprint race said, well, just won F2, time to win F1. He's so close to achieving it now. He is just a few car lengths away from potentially getting that lead of the race with just about 20 laps to go. Meanwhile, of course, El Rey Guri in behind him has, of course, already won a race this weekend by getting that sprint race win. He is confident, he is pushing forward, he is pushing on. Racing needs to save fuel. That's why all that pace has disappeared from Racing Chai. That's why that 4-second lead has demolished to the 3 tenths we see it as now. And this could be a move in the making here for the race lead. Benjamin Daly to the inside in turn number 4, and he gets the move done on Racing Chai for the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix.
Stellar move indeed, heading through towards Slosh Gold. Lap 49 of 71. Benjamin Daly was notching together 5 tenths ahead of Racing Chai leading up to that move. Coming out of turn 3 and towards turn 4. He now leads here at Austria at the Red Bull Ring. Scuderia Ferrari now watching on as their hopes for a victory and Tim Marduk's first victory this season to yet plant him higher and higher in the table. Of course, his best result being second back at the Temple of Speed at Monza, along with that fastest intermediate lap as he now makes his way through towards turn 1 here on lap 50 of 71. Surely they'll be boxing soon with soft tyres, I can imagine, on Tim Marduk's mind as they look to conclude this race. Racing Chai with it all to do as he bids to save fuel.
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't look like this is all done just yet. Ben might have actually done Racing a bit of a favour here, really, by getting the race lead. Yes, he's now going to drive in the clean air, and he's going to then, as a result, not have as much suffering on his tyres. But he is also now in a position where he's essentially giving the DRS to Racing behind, allowing him to save fuel while staying with that lead pack. So this might be the real benefit that he needs in order to go ahead and get this race win back at some stage from Ben later on. But we'll wait and see now as Racing goes through the left-hander of turn 7 up towards turn 8 we go. On that run towards turn number 9 then, it's still all very close between these top 4 cars. And then, of course, SkyZ has already nearly halved the gap between himself. And then, oh, look at this sudden jump into the pits. Both of those cars decide it at the same time. And, oh, so close to contact between the pair of them into the pit lane. Ben goes in for the new set of tyres. So too does Racing. What is it on Racing's car? It's softs, and he comes out just ahead of Benjamin Daly. Sensational! Absolutely brilliant work for the Mercedes pit crew there as they come out ahead of Benjamin Daly in the pits, and that was not in the script, not as far as Ben Daly was concerned, and it is soft tyres on the Ferrari as well. Game on for the last 20 laps of this Grand Prix.
You could say it's true to form. Ferrari slower in the pit stop than Mercedes, heading through towards the deeper segment of this race. It's going to be a grandstand finish, that's for sure, because while Tiemet Marduk might have missed out through the phase of the pit stop, the last pit stop you'd gather in this dying moment of this race, we got 20 laps ahead of us of the realm, and certainly these two back together again, looking to cause a stir. Now the big question is, does El Rey Guri respond? Does GB68 respond? Remember, he's amassed 39 laps on his mediums. Surely he has to come in. They both come in. In comes El Rey Guri, in comes GB68, but how much time can Tiemet Marduk and also Racing Chai garner in this outlap alone?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. You can see there some of the tyre performance between GB and MSkyZ. SkyZ is coming along and takes that lead once again. But they're, of course, on medium tyres. I would expect now that we're going to see El Rey come out on mediums, and of course then we've got, you can see there, Racing and Ben coming through your picture, jumping those guys who've just gone into the pits, and GB is on the softs as well. So it is now driving seat for the soft tyre runners. They need to make up the gap that exists now between themselves and MSkyZ before the end of the race. They will have the pace and the tyres to be able to do that, but when they catch them, will there be enough left in those tyres to then be able to make the move happen? Now, in theory, they should, but of course, theory is one thing, practice is another, and GB is wasting no time at all. He gets the move done on that guy Vince, and he's got in his sights El Rey Guri in front of him. He needs to be able to clear El Rey as quickly as he possibly can, and then go chasing on after Ben as quickly as possible. There's 2.3 seconds worth of a gap there. That's how much they've lost just through the undercut there between themselves, and then of course Ben and Racing up in front of them. And as they go pushing on, then this is going to be a fight for the victory that will go right down, I suspect, until the last 2 or 3 laps.
Without any shadow of a doubt, MSkyZ, of course, only 10 laps, now 11 laps accrued on his medium tyres. We saw how long he took his softs and how well he was able to persevere in terms of the time gaps, and I'm sure he'll be able to do exactly the same on the medium tyres. So this is going to be a really stiff test here of Racing Chai and Tiemet Marduk. They're going to have to put the burners on in order to close up, but we can cross over to Scott, who's going to give us some insight into Tiemet Marduk's pit stop.
Yes, as we can see from his point of view, he doesn't actually feel the contact from Razin, but he is not happy about this, as we're talking like under a second of difference. As you can probably see in your bottom right, once he finds out, he just gets front there, almost like glitches him right in front feature, as we could say. He is absolutely raging about that. But what you're going to do, that's what the game decided to do. He's going to have to pull out the stops if he wants to get back.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Thank you so much, Scott. And I will say it's not over yet for Tiemet Marduk. He's just gone purple in the first sector, so his pace is relentless right now. He is putting the squeeze on Racing Chai. Let's not forget, Racing still has to save fuel. It might not be all a foregone conclusion just yet. He might just be up, perhaps even holding up Tiemet Marduk, trying to stop him from making any sort of, progress in terms of trying to close up to MSkyZ, though it would be futile for Racing Chai because MSkyZ does lead the championship. As now Tiemet Marduk, we're right on board with him now. He did set the fastest lap briefly until El Rey Guri snatched it away from him. Heading through now towards turn 3, again in the wheel tracks of the Mercedes, heading out of turn 3 at Remus, and now powering out with the DRS open. He might yet have a chance heading in towards Slosh Gold. Will he try for the move here as they head down in towards turn 4? It certainly will be ascension for the Scuderia Ferrari up into second place, responding to the pit stop drama in great style, and Racing Chai will have to wait in behind and try and use that DRS.
He certainly will, and this is all something which they're going to be tussling with all race long here. You can see also that benefit of the soft tyres as GB68 has made the move on El Rey Guri and has already gotten 1.3 seconds on them. This is what the soft tyres look like when they are unleashed, when they're not having to be babied and managed as they were earlier on in this race. And so as we go along then, it is MSky's lead then coming down as GB sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. 1.6 seconds seconds between him and Ben and Rassen in front. And he's going to need to keep setting fastest laps because ultimately those guys in front are going to get DRS off of each other, corner after corner, lap after lap. And he's not unless he gets himself within a second of them in front. So this is really the absolute worst case scenario for GB. Hindsight says he should have gone his... Whoa, and Skyzy! Oh, goodness gracious me, what on earth has happened? What has happened to Skyzy? He has dropped out of the race lead. He had over 9 seconds worth of a lead. He must have made a mistake all on his own and has now ended up getting smacked by several cars as they come through turn number 3. What on earth has happened there? Scott, you're on it.
Yeah, come on, Scott, over to you.
I'm
Give us a scoop.
I'm coming. I've got it here. He is not happy. I'm going as fast as I can as we are looking onto the clip. Let's see what's happening. He's coming into this turn. It's a very difficult turn, obviously. You can always lose the grip here. Oh. Okay, that's the first thing I've watched that as well.
A
That's
wheel
what just
disconnect.
happened.
A wheel disconnect. Heading up to turn 3 and has lost the mobility of the wheel and it's planted him into the barrier at Remus corner. Now takes the lead here in lap 56. The battle is on and the door is wide open between 4 cars, all within proximity of potentially taking the race win. You've got Tiermet Marduk chasing his first win of the season. Rasin Chai looking for his first win of the season. GB68 chasing his first win ever in the Creator Series. And El Ray Guri, who could yet also take his first win of the season. It is all at stake here in the closing stages, here at the Red Bull Ring. It can't be higher right now, Dan.
They certainly can't. I tell you what, I've got to give major props to this man right here. GB68 has been able to close down that gap that was 1.8 seconds to now just 1.1 seconds. He's hovering right there. He's so close. He's now within DRS range, but I don't think that was by the detection point. No, it was not. So he's going to lose some of that time as they run up towards the line here. Is he going to be within it? Yes, I think he was. And so now he should have that rear wing open up. Yes, he does. This is now a 3-way fight for the victory. As he starts to close in on the drivers in front then, let's wait and see as to whether or not GB might be able to clinch that first race win here today. That being said, though, it looks as though his straight line speed setup is not as good as those in front because he has lost that DRS once again on the run up towards turn number 3. And so Rasin then is hovering like an angry wasp in the rear view mirror of Tiermet Marduk at this point in time. But as they go pushing on for the time being, if they continue to just drive in formation, they might be able to shake their tail in the form of GB.
Yeah, truly a gargantuan shock. We have seen drama left, right and centre here in lap 57, leading up to lap 57 of 71. It was all on the table for Skyzy, a 9-second buffer that was lost in an instant after cruising into the barrier out of turn 3 at Remus, and now sees him plummeted to the other end of the field, near enough 8th place in the top 10, and now trying to chase down Dave Gaiman for respectable points, as now we see Tiermet Marduk coming out of turn 1, being pursued by Rasin Chai. DRS open for the Mercedes, as it looks now to try and rise up the hill through towards turn 3, does it before the corner, and Rasin Chai manages to secure that P1 away from Tiermet Marduk. But I tell you what, folks, this is far from over, as they'll be battling to the bitter end on lap 71.
They certainly will, and as we see them just constantly trading blows with one another here, we can see that Skyzy is not best pleased by the way in which their race has unfolded, and so they've got the bit between their teeth, and they've already started to ascend back up the order. P7 now with 2 seconds worth of a gap to that guy Vince in front of them. After that, just 3/10 up to the back of Michi Hoyer, but after that, it's 9 seconds to get onto the back of El Ray Guri. Now, we've got well over 9 laps, so they don't need to catch them by a second a lap, but it's still going to be a very tall order to do that with a driver who has shown that they have been pacey all weekend.
Yeah, they have, and Skyzy, despite having the solemn moment in the sprint race, he started his main Grand Prix extremely well, and unfortunately it all fell apart at the seams. And once again, McLaren facing the prospects of very little points coming out of Austria. Now we've got a car that's obviously, I think blue flag conditions out on track, as we now see plenty of them now filtering through turn 1. That is Zafso chasing after Meraki just in front of him here. Dave Gaming as well in the midst of all this. There's the 2 McLarens. Of course, at the head of this is Skyzy. That guy Vince moves up to 5th and relegates Michi Hoyer down into 6th place. It is now all between the top two. GB68 once again losing DRS. He's now losing time. In fact, he's 1.3, and I think he's more concerned about El Rey Guri here at this point.
Yeah, he may well be, or he might have deliberately invited El Rey here to help with the DRS situation. You know, it might be that by working together here, they can actually both close up to the back of the two cars in front. Now, of course, that is a double-edged sword, because it could be that you end up inviting El Rey in to steal the victory. But as it is, you know, he could be running out of options here, because he's still hovering around that 1 second, 1.1 second or so from the car in front, and it's not coming down anytime soon, because of course they keep getting DRS. Once again, DRS opens up here, and Benjamin Daly has it once again and gets by, but this is now going to give DRS straight on back to Rasin Chai. And so as they go down the back straight then, DRS opens on the Mercedes. Are they going to go straight up and past the Ferrari? Well, we'll wait and see, but it looks like actually this time, no, not on this occasion.
Yeah, yellow flags in Sector 3 as well. Not quite sure what's determined that, but Safso and Peya are going wheel to wheel
that is Devil
further
Noob
down,
again.
as we now see them make their way through the final corners as well. Dirk Chocolate not having any issues, neither's F1 Alex, as we now watch Tiamat Marduk out in front. Rasin Chai in behind. Safso and Peya still going at it for P10 as they look to squabble, as we now watch them make their way around on lap 60 of 71. Still Tiamat Marduk out in front now, trying to build a gap, 0.5 of a second of the realm. He's now managed to find it, 1.2 then between GB and Rasin Chai, with El Rey Guri breathing down his neck. Now remember, El Rey Guri on the medium tyres and will be able to go longer into the race. Is it the case that the mediums will come into their own late in the day and maybe provide him with an opportunity? Just look at this now as they rise up the hill. A battle for the lead as well as P3, as now Rasin Chai and Tiamat Marduk go wheel to wheel again, heading up through towards Remus. It is now Rasin Chai who takes that lead advantage here in lap 61, 10 laps to go, and now GB68 still doing enough to certainly defend the place against El Rey Guri. That guy Vince now up to 5th, M-Sky Z joining him in 6th as well, and fighting now with Michi Hoyer. Drama across this grid.
Absolutely everywhere. There are battles all over the shop. Look at this. Look at the number of cars that are all right next to one another. They're all trying to fight and trying to find a position here, there, and everywhere. M-Sky Z is trying to go around the outside of two cars here, but they've opened the door. Jake goes for a move up the inside. Doesn't end up working out for them, so it's still 7th for M-Sky Z, still 8th for Jake. But now Jake has to worry about the inside line here, because that's Safso trying to get the move done on them, whilst also trying to defend from Peya as well. This is just absolute out-and-out racing between everybody up and down this field. There are so few large gaps that we can see between the cars. There's only about 3 or 4 of them, in fact, up and down the entire field. Everyone else is in some sort of a scrap. Skyzy gets a time penalty. That's not what they're going to be wanting at all now.
They could be out of the points if they continue as well. He's right on the precipice as now GB loses P3 at the hands of El Rey Guri, and it was coming. Of course, GB was losing time, hand over fist. He was losing 0.3 a lap. I think more conscious of what was going on with El Rey Guri, and we know for a fact, obviously, that GB was struggling with fuel earlier on, very much like Rasin. He was looking to save it, but now it's El Rey Guri in 3rd place on medium tyres. Meraki now in the midst of a fight, as now M-Sky Z after claiming that penalty. And now that guy Vince losing out to P6. Meraki now looking to try and go up the inside out of Slosh Gold. Peya manages to displace Dave Gaming to a certain extent. They're going to go wheel to wheel, heading through towards the Roche and Verth curves now as they stay side by side. The Hasto squeeze in the McLaren off the track, and Peya, with very little tarmac available to him, heads out into the gravel and has to forfeit P10.
Dear oh dear, it's gone from bad to worse for the McLarens, as all seems to be falling apart for them towards the end here. Safso, I'm sure, is going to be absolutely seething with all this DRS train malarkey that is in front of them here. They've got Michi Hoyer now, the car in front of them, as GB manages to reclaim 3rd place from El Rey Guri here, as the pair of them still nowhere near the back of the two race leaders. And it's one of these things where just that undercut that gave the 2.3 second gap from GB up to Rasin and Ben Daly. You know, all credit to GB. He's done a huge job to be able to get the gap all the way back down again, but it's just too little too late, really. He should have pitted on the same lap as the two race leaders, and I know that's a very easy thing to say in hindsight, but look at this now, around the outside, potentially, for Michi Hoyer, trying to get that move done on that guy Vince. Vince, though, is going to be stout in defence, manages to just get that Red Bull a full car's length ahead, and then that relegates Michi back down to 8th place and back into the potential clutches of Safso here. A bit of a slide there, a bit of a wiggle on from the Mercedes as well. Is there going to be any move to the inside for either of these cars? No, not this time. They're going to follow the normal racing line, but wide of the apex is Michi Hoyer. Is this going to potentially open the door now for Safso? Safso with a great exit onto the start-finish straight. DRS for the pair of them, and as they go down to the start-finish straight, then onto turn number 1. No move this time from Safso, but he is going to get a good exit here now. Rushing up the hill once more. This, I think, is going to be the move. He's going to move to the outside. Going to try and control the corner before they get there. And as they get in towards the braking zone, that is a move for Safso round the outside in turn number 3 on Michi Hoyer. And he's now going to go chasing on after that guy, Vince.
And precisely the place where he started, P8, so it's working out for Safso in this late stage. 14 lap-old mediums here at his disposal now as Meraki goes up the inside of M-Sky-Z, who has had a really troubled race. Issues of the technical variety as his wheel shut down on the run up towards turn 3 whilst he was in the lead. He then got slapped with a penalty and now has lost out to Meraki, who jumps up to 5th. Now remember, Meraki started P20. It was a last place start. He's now in P5 with a bumper load of points about to go his way. Should he be able to bring this home? Rasin Chai back on the tail of Tiamat Marduk as the two of these try and battle up towards turn 3 at Remus. Outside line here for Rasin Chai again. They swap places. It's going to be P1 for Rasin Chai. Tiamat Marduk happy to wait in behind as he'll get DRS down through towards turn 4.
Absolutely, but look at this. Elray has absolutely been brought into this battle now, is just a half a second back. I think he could be an outside chance for the win here. This medium tyre, we've been saying all day, is a great race tyre, and for them to have put it on at the same time as the soft runners, his tyres will be in a better condition now than theirs. And so this could potentially be our race winner that we're riding on board with at the moment here. He just needs to keep it nice and calm, as he's doing so far, and then just find the right points to make the moves happen here, because he clearly has so much more grip underneath him right now than Benjamin Daly does, certainly. But the question will be then whether he has enough grip underneath him to challenge Rasin Chai at the head of the field as well. Down the start-finish straight we go now, and Elray is close, but he's not quite close enough to be able to make a move in towards turn number 1, or if he did, it would be too late there as they go chasing on up the hill now. I think this could be the point where Elray gets the move done on Ben, and then could then start to set up Rasin for the race lead here, down towards turn number 4, though no, not this time in fact. It ends up being far more pedestrian going into turn number 3 instead, and poor old GB is now just falling away and away and away from those drivers in front. Let's not look at GB, let's look at the fight that's going on up at the head of the field, shall we? And so, yeah, it's absolutely one of these things where we're just constantly seeing the back and forth here between these very, very skilled drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder as well, Elray Guri on the medium tyres that are starting to come into their own into the closing stages at this point. And currently operating with approximately 4/10 separating him from P1 so far. Sky-Z losing out to Meraki as well just now and looking to fight back ahead of the Williams. That's going to be very, very tricky though. Meraki, of course, the current Creator Series champion. As now we watch Elray Guri once again on the attack of Tiamat Marduk. This time the battle for P2 lights up with an Alfa Romeo and a Ferrari coming together, both dressed in red, but it's the red of the Alfa Romeo and Elray Guri that goes second place here in this classification, and now hunting down after Rasin Chai. He might do them both, heading up through towards turn 3. He won't this time, but a chance should he get the exit. Heading out of Remus corner now, those medium tyres coming into their own against the softs that were oh so good at the very start of their stint. Rasin Chai forced to defend to the outside. It's not defensive though, but aggressive from Elray Guri, who now chucks it through for the lead. And in one whole sector alone, he's managed to excel from P3 to that P1 spot with a mere 4 laps to go.
Absolutely, he now needs to just focus, he needs to get his head down, execute that pace that he's got with these tyres and break DRS on the cars behind. It's not going well so far, as Rasin is still within just 3/10 of him here. I'm wondering if maybe those two on the softs have maybe done a bit of tyre saving together, have allowed those behind like GB and then of course Elray you see here to get close, and now they're going to try and execute some of that grip towards the end of the race. I don't know, but ultimately, you know, these tyres have been going for only 17 laps on late race fuel loads as well, so they're not not going to be as nearly worn as the tyres that we will have seen on cars earlier on in the race when those who came out the pits went straight onto the softs. Let's recharge and watch tyres. P1 is still on, says Rasin Chai, so he's got fight and talk. This is definitely not over.
It certainly is, and lap 68 of 71, it is still El Rey Guri out at the front here. Rasin Chai operating in that second place, but trying to get closer. The gap's equilateral between the front three. As now we see them heading through the double left-hander coming through Roche and Wirth curve. Still El Rey Guri out in front and marshalling off a fantastic level of pace, but it'll be put under scrutiny because Rasin Chai, remember, still on soft tyres. Obviously, we've seen them be taken quite lengthy into the course of the race. We saw not El Rey Guri, but M Sky Z do exactly that earlier on, and he was able to extract huge levels of performance out of the car. And now with the DRS opened up now, this is a chance here for Rasin Chai, who'll want to stay in the wheel tracks coming through towards turn 1, but he'll have his chance heading up towards turn 3. He'll want to apply the pressure, or will he wait behind? We'll have to wait and see as we ride on board here with Rasin now, looking to the outside. Does he decide to make the overtake? Yes, no, he certainly does. He'll send it late. He makes contact very late. He hesitated, and now he's lost out to Ben Daly, who moves into P2.
He certainly has, and I think that the really key information with the tyre graphic earlier on, of course, is that with El Rey now at 25% tyre wear, that is going to be his first big drop-off in pace. That makes the fight a bit more equal for the soft tyre runners, but as they go in pursuit after him, of course, they're going to need to make sure they don't come together. They don't want to slow each other down, because they'll end up just allowing El Rey to disappear off into the distance, and that certainly looks like what's kind of happened here. It looks as though Rasin had the better lines, the better way of being able to follow here compared to Ben, and Ben is now 6/10 back. He's also got a huge amount of battery in reserve, though. Look at this. He's been able to charge that up massively versus when we saw that light flashing earlier on. I think I'm squinting a bit here to try and determine, but it looks as though it's a flashing battery on the back of El Rey's car. It is, look! And so El Rey therefore has less than 10% ERS remaining as we go on to the penultimate lap, whereas Ben has over 60% ERS charge remaining. That is huge!
It's massive, and coming up to the tail end of the race, it could prove decisive. As now they head through turn 3 again, still Benjamin Daly splitting the difference between Rasin Chai and El Rey Guri. The fight between these three still rumbles on. GB68, a distant memory, down in 4th place, 2.7 seconds away from a podium place, as now they make their way through Slosh Gold this time. Will it be gold, though, for El Rey Guri on its return to the Creator Series Championship? What a way to return as well. Of course, recent results have been reasonable for him when he returned to this series after leaving oh so long ago, but certainly the way things are mapped out now, he has a great chance to bring home the plaudits here at the late stage. Penultimate lap coming to an end here at Red Bull Ring.
Absolutely. He's very, very wide in the penultimate corner there. Very wide indeed. He goes through the final turn. He manages to get a bit more time back. But now DRS is open for Benjamin Daly. He goes down at that start-finish straight, and he has gained so much time. He's now within 1/10.5 of El Rey Guri. There's now realistically 2 overtaking spots left on the entire circuit for this to be decided. On the run up here towards turn number 3. Is Rasin going to try for a move up the inside? No, it's Benjamin Daly who goes for the move up the inside. Gets the move done there, and also opens the door to Rasin. Rasin now is going to harass and harangue on the back of El Rey Guri, who forces him right to the right-hand side of the circuit. He knows that he's in trouble. He doesn't have the DRS. He doesn't have ERS. And now as they go into turn number 4, then El Rey tries to hang around the outside, and it's too much. He ends up going too deep into the corner, slides, and loses the spot. And that now means that Ben Daly leads the way ahead of Rasin Chai with so much battery available in the Ferrari. And it looks as though there is going to be needing a miracle now for Rasin Chai, George.
Advantage for the Scuderia as Tiamat Marduk looks to close out the Austrian Grand Prix here at the Red Bull Ring. And now Rasin Chai, despite his efforts in pursuing it, it's going down under. It's Tiamat Marduk. It's victory here at the Red Bull Ring, his first of the season. Rasin Chai finishing in second. The Spanish god, El Rey Guri, finishes third, with GB68 returning in fourth. But Meraki battling right to the bitter end. Has got Peya closing him down. Sapso in the mix. A huge fight to the line here, Dan.
Absolutely. Meraki comes around that final turn, then he's able to get that move done. He's able to get that 5th place. Peya, then Safso, then Dave Gaming and Dat Guy Vince and M Sky Z. Sky Z, of course, having that post-race penalty to end up being dealt with. And then, of course, you get Michi Hoyer. Infratic and Alex Gillen will come along next. And Alex Gillen, their first ever finish outside of the podium last week and their first finish outside the top 10 this week. An absolutely torrid race for one of our former champions.
Well, he won the F2 race, the feature race, in great style. He said, he made a claim, it would be the F1 race next. He's only gone and done it. It's Benjamin Daly, a truly astounding performance after muscling in a huge drive, a strategic brilliance here on the face of it too, after that extraordinary run on the medium tyres that certainly put him in the prime position to finish the race on the softs. A truly magical drive, and one that I'm sure he'll be absolutely thrilled with. Razin Chai in second place, El Ray Guri in third, but it's Tiermet Marduk who raises the roof. It's going down under. It's Ben Daly, your victor here at Austria. What can you say to that, Dan? Truly astounded.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a great race. I mean, to have come from a little bit further back on the grid, to be able to then manage the tyres well, be able to manage that battery well, of course. We never heard any complaints as far as fuel levels are concerned from Ben. When we did hear them from Rassen, we heard them from GB, we heard them all up and down the field. And you can see there then, P5 to P1, that is a great race. All commiserations, of course, to Razin Chai and El Ray Guri, but at least they managed to consolidate their qualifying positions and not drop down the order. GB with a great race as well. I think really underestimated there. If they had not ended up going for that one lap later pit stop, I think they could have been in the fight for the win here today. I think they could have even been on the podium, given how much pace they were able to execute in trying to get onto the back of those guys later on. But yeah, bit of a shame. Massive result as well for Jake. No safety cars to help them out with this one. It was just through good strategy and then everything else. So from there, we then see from P6, it's Peya, Safso, Dave Gaming, Dat Guy Vince, M Sky Z, Mitchy Hoyer, Infratic, Alex Gillen, Curbs, Dirk Chocolate, F1 Alex, Chesnoid, JD Devil Noob, Hoodie Pete, and then B-Roy to round out your order here.
Incredible. What a race. I think we were all treated to something truly special. It was a huge battle right from start to finish. And nevertheless, I think credit to Tiermet Marduk. It was a well-ran race. I think El Ray Guri will be kicking himself though, Dan. The opportunity was on the table. The last lap just did not go his way, losing the car, heading around turn 4 after a coming together with Razin Chai. It was a battle to the bitter end. And I think we can head across to F1 Scott to actually take another look at it. I think we would like to digest this one. Scott, over to you.
I'm so sorry, you've caught me at the wrong moment. What clip am I being asked for here? Sky Z, I got you. We got you. I've got you right there. I have been going a little bit all crazy, as you can understand. Yeah. You're catching on to everything at the end. We have the slight issue from M Sky Z here. I don't really know what happened. He came back. I don't know why my clip is not working. Sorry about this, guys. We will just leave the clip playing, and we'll see what happened there. It's completely disconnect. As we can see, I'm not too sure what that means, but obviously disconnect. It put him right back onto the track. He was able to continue afterwards, but just so unfortunate for him. We've all been there with tech issues. He comes back already all the way down the field, though. Unfortunate for him. He will be kicking himself after that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was a truly defining moment, I think, towards the end. It would have been great to see the El Ray Guri fight as well, I think, towards the very end. Obviously, the moment that he and Rassen came together. Honestly, it was a huge moment. And Scott, I think we'll head back to you just to take a look at it, because that too was a defining moment in the race. When El Ray Guri and Razin Chai came together, coming through the final corner. What a moment that was.
Yeah, on the last lap. Yeah, we actually had quite a few touches from them in the final few rounds, but definitely we're getting so close to it. As we can see, lap 71 just gets right in there. As you can see, I love the fact that we're on lap 71, by the way, on different strategies, and this is how close it was. There is no space for precedence here. He goes for it. He almost kind of tricks him a little bit, tries to get there. El Ray does his best, but we know from watching the broadcast, El Ray did lose a little bit of speed there, and that was sort of the end of it at that point. But honestly, so impressive from all three of them to be so tight, but to also not take each other out too bad as well. I think they'll all be quite happy with themselves, but Tiermet Marduk doing Ben Daly things right. He has absolutely dominated today, and congratulations to him.
Yeah, I mean, you know, credit to El Reguri as well. As soon as I think he saw that the track was getting, you know, thinner and thinner for Razin, he backed off straight away. You could just see the POV kind of move to the left. So credit to him for that decisive moment. But obviously, Razin, I think, was on one half trying to defend against El Reguri, and in the process, I think, tried to jump past Tiamat Marduk. It was a very close fight between everyone in the top three, but I'd imagine Tiamat Marduk looked on in glee when he saw the two of them come together, Dan.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that is just one of these things where it just means that it solidifies any potential advantage you've secured. If the two behind you start to have a scrap and they start to have problems and other bits and pieces, then yeah, that's just going to be the thing that completely cements any potential advantage, especially on the last lap. I mean, if people are sliding and coming into contact on the final lap, you know that you've essentially got the psychological edge over them, the psychological advantage, if you will. Which of course Ben is very well versed in, but yes, he's been able to go through that. So I understand now, George. You're going to have a chit chat with a few people.
Yeah, we're going to have a little chinwag. We'll start off with Benjamin Daly. Why not? Our race winner. You could say twice a race winner after what we've seen lately, because obviously after his sensational performance in the F2 race and now coming back into F1, and I think he's with us right now as well. Ben, what a result. Incredible day at the office for you. F2 went well, and then you followed it up with a supremely brilliant drive. Strategy calls were spot on in the F1 race. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you guys. I've been streaming for over 5 hours now, and you think that would wear me down, but maybe the F2 got me warmed up quite nicely there. But look, I love Austria. It's a good track for me, and I'm glad I took it seriously. What a race! It's not very often you win these races, and man, I really cherish it when I do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge result because, you know, your first race back, second place, you got the intermediate fastest time that day as well. Coming off the back of that, 16 points after that. So since you've returned, the points have been good. You're right in the championship fight, really, I suppose, even at this tender stage. You know, you've missed 3 races, but you have a great opportunity to really do something special. But it's going to be a huge ask, I would say.
Oh yeah, it was always going to be an uphill battle missing the first 3 races in Australia. I am missing one more, unfortunately, which is going to be Bahrain. So, look, Tom 97 is going to come back. Razin has been consistent as always, and Skyzy has unbelievable pace. So it's got to be between those guys.
Yeah, and after that as well, more F2 appearances. Are we going to be seeing some more of that too?
Much to Dan's delight, I think I'll leave the F2 driving to you guys. I just wanted to try it. I love the F2 cars, but barely any leagues do it. So come to Creator Series if you want to try your hand at F2. It was brilliant.
It certainly captured the imagination, I think, and it's brilliant to have it as part of what we show here at the Creator Series. But Ben, phenomenal drive, mate. Welcome back in great style, and we'll see you back, I'm sure, in the future. Shame we're going to miss you at Bahrain, but still plenty more in the tank.
Yeah, see you next week, guys.
Yeah, take it easy, Ben. Ben Daly, everybody, fresh off the back of that supremely brilliant drive, which I'm sure will go long in the memory as he looks to now persevere and take whatever results he can to close out his championship. It's been truly a stellar performance. We are joined by someone who pushed him to the bitter end. Unfortunately, came unstuck to a degree with El Reguri coming through towards Slosh Gold. But Razin, a great drive. You and Ben were pretty much matching at every moment right through the course of that race. Same strategy. The pace was pretty much identical. There was a moment you beat him in the pit stop. I bet you had a slight grin when you did that.
Yeah, I mean, when we went into the pits, I pushed it to the very limit. I almost tapped his car, basically. That's how close it was. But the problem was that, like, so I was leading for, like, I think 47 laps without them being in DRS. I had such a good gap to them. And then, unfortunately, like, I've realized my fuel was running low, so I had to start saving fuel. Brought them back into it. Then I tried to work with Ben when we pit for softs. I still save fuel. Skyzy, unfortunately, had a massive moment with his wheel disconnecting, which is unfortunate. But from there on, it was, like, between me and Ben, and then potentially Elray and GB. And yeah, fair play to Elray, man. He had the pace in those mediums. Came out to the ends. Everybody's running low on fuel, basically, so pretty much just had to save as much as I could and then just fight. But yeah, I take P2. Bit sad to miss out on P1. You know, Elray being on the final lap, you know, being around that area, it was a bit hard to lunge Ben. But yeah, we secured P2, I take it, and I believe that's championship lead. So
I believe so. My maths, I haven't confirmed my maths yet, but based on what you did in the sprint race, obviously you did manage to score some points there too, brought the deficit down a little bit, and obviously with M Skyzy's issue, Obviously, you dropped down through the field and obviously sustained a time penalty. Therefore, I think you do take the lead of the championship, which is massive coming into the final moments. A huge opportunity for yourself. GB68 was in the mix too. He's also in the championship fight, but has got a little bit more work to do than you have. What is your ambitions? What are your thoughts? We've still got some important races left, 4 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
what's it going to be?
So we've got 4 races left, I believe, it being Portugal, Missouri, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia.
Correct.
To be honest, Portugal, I think that's a track nobody's really familiar with, so hopefully I can capitalize. Missouri Grand Prix always works in my favor, I guess. Tend to be good at them. Bahrain, I mean, hey, Bahrain's a pad track, you know, so it is great. But yeah, and then Saudi Arabia is a weak track for me, but hey, it doesn't matter. Hopefully I can just gain enough points consistently in those next 3 races and then build a lead. And yeah, obviously the aim is, it wasn't going into the season to challenge for the championship. We've ended up in a position now where we're leading, so of course we'll go for it. But obviously you can see in the background, we've now got a wheel. So that's more of slowly whether being integrated now into whether F for this season or not. But
do you think it's the right move to make the hardware change at a very sensitive point in the championship?
This is the point I raised, and I think unless I feel very comfortable with the wheel before the end of the season, I might do that change. If not, probably finish on the pad, retire it, hang it up, and then next season we start on the wheel. You know, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm happy with the wheel. I'm enjoying it. It's a really good experience to have it. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and are you expecting an instant response at Portugal from MSkyZ after the disappointment of today? Because surely he'll want it back, will he not?
Yeah, surely. But I was talking to Skyzy just briefly, just a moment ago, and he said he's unfortunately missing Portugal. So swings in my favour, I guess. But obviously Tom 97 is still there, you know. He was a few points ahead of me going into this race. He's obviously missed, but I don't know if he's racing next week. But you know, he's always a threat. Same with other drivers. I mean, if Ben keeps driving the way he is, of course he is, you know. Same with Elroy, like Elroy drove brilliantly today as well. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be tight, but we're going to go for it.
Yeah, well, huge points today, Rasin. Congratulations on taking the championship lead and the P2 as well. If I'm not mistaken, that is an incredible second P2 in a row, back to back. So massive credit to you for that, and we'll see you next time at Portugal.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much. Rasin Chai, everybody, who's managed to secure P2. Now, as I understand it, we've got MSkyZ joining us here this time. MSkyZ, can you hear us?
Hello, guys.
You must be absolutely devastated, my man, after coming off the back of a tricky race. The sprint race didn't go to plan, and it all fell apart with the technical issue as well with the wheel. You must be absolutely devastated.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
No, nothing more to say. It's not possible to win a race with this kind of difficulties, let's say.
Yeah, and as we understand it, you're missing Portugal as well, as I understand it. So this does put a lot of, should we say, could be an issue in terms of the championship.
It's over. For me, I mean, I got taken out 3 times in Japan today, technical issue without anything off my side, so just having very bad luck. That's life. That's the story of my life. I said to them, that's a great.
I take it though, I mean, your pace was still huge. I mean, we looked at what you did in qualifying, massive attempts to grab pole. You know, obviously we looked at, you know, obviously your incredible efforts in terms of the pace on the softs. I mean, taking them as long as you did, it was just unreal. 30 laps on that stint in the middle stint before you then boxed onto the mediums. I mean, was that a conscious decision? Was that something you planned ahead of time, or was it something that was kind of like put together during the course of the race?
Well, not at all. Didn't think the soft could last that much, but I had the GLS on Ben, and I could just follow him, and I was not losing that much time, so I was very chilling. To save some fuel also behind him. The plan was just to do like soft medium, but a bit way before for the medium. But that just could last. The soft were fine enough to last, and I quit as soon as I started to lose some grip with the wheel, and the medium were quite consistent on my side. I could pass the full GLS train of Raki, I think Savio, Kaya, and stuff. And then after that I had to a bit less than 10 seconds advantage about on Razin, Climax, and I think on GB. So it was just going to the plan. Don't think they could catch me with 15 laps to go with them battling every lap. So the win was on the card again, and the technical issue just ruined everything. Fortunately, I didn't have any damage from the contact with the wall at 300, so that's quite a good news. But still, that's a P10, which should have been at least a podium. So we move.
Well, looking ahead, obviously you are a race winner this season. You have taken 2 podiums this season as well, and a plethora of points. More to come, I'm sure, but I'm sure we'll see you back at the top very soon, M-Sky. Thank you so much, M-Sky. Hey, always a pleasure to have him, of course. M-Sky Z, everybody, top man, and unfortunately suffering the issues, of course. We have got GB68 joining us now. Someone who arguably, again, and I hate to say it, GB, I'm going to start calling you a bottler here at this point, because I have to say, you had your chance again. The pace was on. You know, you're on the younger tyre than Racing Chai and Tiamat Marduk right up to the end of this race. It may have only been 1 lap, but it was still younger. I mean, you must be a little disappointed that more wasn't obtained today.
I think, yeah, I'm disappointed. But there were, to be, in fairness, there were several reasons towards the end. Number one being Ben and Razin's awesome kind of DRS swapping. That was huge, because not only did that mean that they extended that 1 second gap, but I was dumping everything. So even if I had gotten to DRS at the end, they would have had a battery advantage. I think Ben was saying he was around 70 towards the end, which was way more than me. So I'm a little bit gutted to almost finish last out of the ones that were fighting. But at the same time, like, I'm not sure what more I could have done other than probably when David Elray passed me to try harder to stay within his DRS. But again, my tyres were over 25, his were under, and yeah, there was a lot of things at the end that kind of played out, yeah, differently to how I would have hoped. But I'm still happy with the race. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it looked like the medium tyre was the better race tyre, to be fair, towards the end. And we did see it very early on. I think it was the difference maker for Ben and Razin. Through that middle stint, they were able to almost overcut everyone on the soft, staying in the DRS, similar to what you were doing, essentially, because it brought you into the fight. But still, yeah, a positive result for Aston Martin, because Zafso finished P7 in the points, and obviously yourself, 4th place. You know, in terms of the constructors, that's still pretty strong. And looking ahead, we've got some good races coming up. Portugal, mystery race, and then Bahrain and Saudi. It's not a bad way to close out the season, and you're still not far away from the championship.
Yeah, let's see. It's going to be interesting. I think a few of the guys are missing Bahrain. I'm also missing Bahrain. So I guess let's see where that leaves. I think Razin might be missing a race, if I'm not mistaken. So I still put Skyzy as my favourite. But someone told me that he might be missing next race too. So yeah, let's see. It's going to be wide open. I think, yeah, in races to come, I think it's going to be key to work together with cars around. I mean, again, highlighting Ben and Razin today, it just shows that picking the right strategy is important, yes, but also not just sending it, not losing that DRS. It's so crucial in this game to keep it. I think Portimao is pretty beneficial to have it as well. So let's see. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. I mean, we've witnessed certainly some incredible races, but there'll be plenty more to come. You've come close several times. That elusive victory has got to be just around the corner, GB, and I'm excited to call it when it does happen as well. Congratulations on the P4. Onwards and upwards for Portugal.
Thank you, mate. I swear, if I win a championship before I win a race, there's something wrong. But yeah, I'll see you guys for the next one.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Incredible. GB, everybody, thank you so much for joining us in the commentary box. What a moment. What a fight. And I think M-Sky Z, his face painted a picture of 1,000 words, really, didn't it? Off the back of what had happened, the technical glitch has set him back, Dan, and obviously now missing out on Portugal. He believes it's over at this point.
He does, and, you know, whether he still believes that by the time he comes to the next race that he takes part in, the next Mystery Grand Prix, we'll wait and see. Because, you know, these things can change in a flash. He's had 2 bad races on the bounce now, where, well, I mean, to call this a bad race is perhaps unfair. It was a bad result, is what it is. And it's 2 bad results in a row. Japan, you know, you could argue maybe there were some ambitious moves there, but there were also definitely occasions where he was, hit into by other cars, so not his fault. And then today, of course, to have a wheel failure is just it beggars belief in the modern day and age. These things have become so reliable, except for mine that makes a noise that is not too dissimilar to the Industrial Revolution. But, they are such reliable pieces of kit, and they just work for hours and hours and hours on end. You see over in iRacing, for example, you've got drivers doing 24-hour races where their kit manages to hold up throughout that whole time. And so for it to give away like that when they had a 9-second lead over the next cars down the way, they would have hit their 25% cliff sooner than he would have done, so he would have been able to actually extend that gap a little bit later on and things like that. I think that he probably would have ended up winning that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's definitely a great, certainly shout for it. I mean, Scott, we look at El Rey Guri, his race today, I think vastly impressive. The strategy, nothing really wrong with it. It was spot on, in my view. I think he definitely had the pace. The mediums looked like the better race tyre right through, in fact, and also looked probably the best tyre to be on at the very end because the crossover point was clearly there on display. It didn't look like Ben or Razin necessarily had the race in their hands on the softs, but at that point, El Rey making a crucial error heading around Stosh Gold. Not 100% his fault. Of course, he made contact with Razin. They were racing for position. It's something that happens, racing incident, things of that nature. But at the same time, he must be feeling a little gutted because there was definitely a win on the table for him.
Yeah, he'll be gutted with that. Like, as you say, racing incident, both him and Razin, they were respecting each other, but they were not just going to give it away right after 71 laps and being that close together. I think the real sort of amazing thing that we saw was that the DRS usage that drivers were using other drivers for, especially the top two, for so long, and getting them far enough in the end, might have been the deciding factor here. Like, El Rey was so close to that, but yeah, he went for that outside line. If he'd have done it, like, who knows what he could have done in that final lap, but sadly he didn't, lost a bit of the grip. Razin was able to keep that P2, and it made just think a life a little bit easier for Ben, who, as we spoke at the very start of this stream, we talked about what quality he has, and its consistency, and he's shown it again. Like, as we say, a lot of the drivers are very fast here, but between two different machines within 5 hours, I'm just like, what is that? Like, fair play. Like, not many people do that, right?
Incredible, really incredible performance. Yeah. And to go back to back in terms of feature race wins, I suppose we count the Grand Prix as a feature race. I mean, it's exactly right, isn't it, Dan? I mean, it was a well-positioned sort of strategy from Ben and Razin. Medium tyres, it was the favourable option. We called it during the mid part of the race. They were staying within DRS of those on the softs. It was just a sheer race of management. They were swapping DRS left, right and centre, swapping positions, and it really did put them in that place where they were able to essentially fight down the remaining laps for the win on the fastest softs. So would you say an exercise in brilliance in terms of strategy and race management?
I think so. I mean, it's ultimately, you've got a driver who's been able to just get themselves up to the front there, and then, at a theoretical tyre disadvantage for that stage of the race, for how worn the tyres were. It was just all about that long-term thinking. It was about, right, okay, well, I'm going to have more worn tyres than El Rey will come the end of the race. It's just an inevitability that comes with the territory of soft versus medium. And so how can I protect against that when it does happen? Well, they're probably going to be able to very easily overtake me with DRS. So let's wait until he does. Let's see how much ERS they've got based on if their light is flashing or not. His light was flashing a lot, as it turned out, and all the while, throughout all of this thought, he's then been able to build up battery. He's got, as GB said, they're 70%, as much as that, come the end of the race. So as much as that, you can go for a fastest lap attempt on the final lap of a race with that much ERS on board. So to have all of that in hand and then get the move done, and decisive move as well. He could have sort of shoulda, woulda, coulda, stay up the inside, stay up behind rather, going into turn number 3, and then try it on turn 4 instead, because that'll be easier or something like that. Could have been the logic there, but he didn't. He went for the move and then thought, yep, this is now going to be me to the end, and he was. And it was a great little display.
It was terrific display, folks. And if you want to see more of them, you certainly can. Hitting the follow button on Twitch. And also you can head across to YouTube where all the content is made available as well, and hit that subscribe button, more importantly, to leave a like as well if you're watching over there. Also, folks, you can check out the Creator Series on social media at F1 Creator Series on Instagram, on X, as well as TikTok as well, where all the highlights are made available. You can catch up with all the latest content pieces as well as many other things, including standings as well. So make sure you stay tuned in. It's all to come. And if you want to check me out, you can. My name is, of course, George Morgan, your commentator, part of the commentary team here at the F1 Creator Series. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or should I say X, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. It's at George Morgan TV. It's exactly the same across the board. Dan, where can they find you, good sir?
Well, they can find me on Instagram at DA Gilligan, on Twitch at Daniel Gilligan, and on Wednesday on Spotify, the Racer Clock podcast is finally launching. So at Racer Clock Pod on Instagram and Twitter for when I eventually start posting things on there. But Wednesday, first episode is coming in.
Be sure to check it out, folks. The wise words of Dan Gilligan. Don't want to miss it.
Oh, yes.
F1 Scott, where can they find you, sir?
Yes, you can find me on Twitch at F1Scott and also Instagram at Scott.TaylorUK. And it's been a pleasure to be here. And just before we go out, just to say, 71 laps, Austria, changeable conditions, not one safety car.
No, unreal. And we also want to give a big shout out to our brilliant production man. I was going to say staff, but there's one man who's really at the head of it all. It's Rob, everybody. So make sure you all give him, all the praise and all the applause as well. He really did pull it out the bag for us tonight after the little issues we had, the technical dramas, and a sensational job on his part, it has to be said. But today, the plaudits went the way of one Benjamin Daly, a first win of the season in Season 5. Of course, he missed out on a championship last year, but could there be hope for yet another go this time around? We'll have to wait and see, folks. Join us next time for Portugal at the Creator Series, brought to you and powered by EA Sports. We'll see you then. Goodbye.